Since the cataclysmic dimensional storm struck, terrifying monsters have invaded this world. They swarm everywhere. But that is not the true legend. While everyone else desperately trains, risking their very lives to cultivate primordial energy, our protagonist lives in absolute peace. He possesses a mysterious device that plays a unique game. By upgrading his virtual avatar, his real-life abilities awaken and multiply. Prepare yourselves to witness his journey as he crushes the competition and ascends to the pinnacle, using the ultimate artifact held in his hand. Almost 10 years ago, a dimensional storm ravaged Earth, revealing the existence of gods, fairies, ghosts, monsters, angels, demons, elves, and legends. These entities were classed into 4 ranks: mortals, legends, epics, and mythicals. Their destructive power transcended human imagination. Humanity sat at the absolute bottom of the mortal rank. However, mankind could evolve by cultivating primordial energy or hunting dimensional beings for their power crystals. The second path was utterly deadly, as the monster domains were realms of pure peril. Now that the fodder history is set, our tale begins in a classroom. A strict, bald teacher angrily calls out our hero, Joe Wen. When he fails to answer, the furious instructor erupts in raging yells. Truly, his massive frustration is justified. This foolish student is deep in slumber during a vital lecture, leaving the master questioning why the principal praised such profound laziness. Memories drift to Wen. The wise principal declared there are only 2 absolute geniuses. One is our protagonist, and the other is everyone else. Returning to reality, the academy bell rings. Joe Wen instantly dashes out of the room in pure silence. The baffled teacher remains behind, convinced the principal misjudged Joe Wen's potential. Meanwhile, our hero sprints down the halls, bursting onto the tennis courts. Once, completely isolated, he pulls out his device. His destiny completely shifted after acquiring this mysterious artifact. The game housed within is the sole reason he abandons class and traditional cultivation. All he needs is a single drop of lifeblood upon the screen to awaken the hidden system. Before initiating, he cautiously scans for intruders. Securing the area, he pierces his flesh with a needle, offering a crimson drop to forge his digital incarnation. The second the screen consumes his blood, the crimson essence morphs into a blood, physical entity. It becomes a commanding miniature avatar bound to Joe Wen's will. The greatest secret here is that empowering this avatar directly transfers supreme strength to his mortal body. No need to risk death for ancient cultivation. He simply conquers digital realms to ascend. Targeting in-game beasts, he unleashes a devastating storm of strikes. He completely obliterates a demonic ant with raw force, while another faces a blazing barrage of unyielding fists. As twilight shadows lengthen, we return to the concerned master. He shares that across the vast commonwealth, discovering a primordial energy genius at 16 is incredibly rare. Yet, he is deeply troubled. Few walk Joe Wen's path of agonizing meditation, refining pure chi without relying on any external enhancements. All of Gua High School placed heavy expectations upon him, certain he would conquer the upcoming trials. Exactly 1 month ago, a brutal event shattered their faith in Joe Wen. To uncover what truly broke him, we step back in time. Students form a massive, whispering circle of shock. A challenger confronted our champion. The true shocker? It is an unknown girl. Whispers label her completely insane for dueling the prodigy on her very first day. Standing upon the battlefield of the courts, lethal tension rises. Our hero asks if they share a past. But the mysterious girl ignores all mercy, coldly demanding he strike first. Embracing his reckless pride, he charges. Instantly, a soul-crushing kick destroys his momentum, violently blasting him to the earth like mere trash. A single devastating strike ended it. Her flawless posture proves she never broke a sweat, while unleashing such terrifying power. The audience freezes in pure shock at this defeat, unable to believe he fell to a single blow. Burning curiosity ignites the crowd. Who is this monstrous girl, and what is her legendary name? The master laments. Since Joe Wen suffered crushing defeat from An Jing, his fighting spirit has lost all drive. He only slumbers and games now. The elder fears that if this dark path continues, his future will face absolute ruin. However, the elder drastically underestimates his secret. If he continues gaming like this, defeating the beasts could unlock unbelievable power. Joe Wen's avatar claims another explosion, crystal. Upon absorption, arcane blue energy surges around him. As the blood avatar consumes this primordial energy, crystal in-game, his real-life abilities actually awaken. Furthermore, the system reveals hidden stats impossible to see. In reality, a month ago, his stats were pathetic. But thanks to this system, his power has skyrocketed. If he relied solely on bitter meditation, even years of relentless training could never match this explosive growth rate, achieved through the game. His sole regret? These virtual crystals cannot manifest in the real world. If they did, selling even the lowest grade shards would guarantee him a life of absolute luxury for his remaining days. As the battle wages on, he faces a new insectoid threat. This foe proves fiercely relentless. It is a crimson, mutated vigor ant, boasting overwhelmingly superior speed and strength. He knows victory is certain given time. But just as he focuses on the battle, footsteps break his concentration. It is Fang Ruoxi, a striking girl. He feels the sudden wave of panic upon spotting her. He refuses to let her witness his gameplay. If this secret is exposed, disaster awaits. Retreating from this duel is absolutely impossible. He resolves to completely ignore her presence, masking himself as an ordinary student lost in a screen. However, Fang Ruoxi shatters the silence, inviting him to join her squad for the ultimate graduation combat trial. Without breaking eye contact with his game, he questions why she wants him in her quad. Fang Ruoxi declares her ambition to dominate the combat exam, requiring only the strongest allies. He, however, replies that his strength has faded since losing his elite title a month ago. Yet, the determined girl firmly insists he remains the sole warrior in Gua High School, worthy to stand as her rival. He attempts to remind her of Enjing's absolute supremacy, but Fang Ruoxi drops a bombshell. Enjing has already transferred. Joe Wen is paralyzed by this revelation. The girl elaborates that despite Enjing's mysterious origins, it is undeniably clear she transcended the mortal realm. Her fleeting arrival and sudden disappearance made it seem as if she descended merely to challenge him. Fang Ruoxi notes her initial suspicion that Joe Wen shared a deep-seated enmity with Jing, sparking that fateful duel. He ponders this mystery briefly, before firmly declaring that such a connection is simply impossible. He had never crossed paths with her, let alone forged a grudge. The girl abandons the subject, asking him one last time if he will join her ranks. Joe Wen, spotting an advantage, accepts, willing to reap the rewards of her formidable leadership. Fang Ruoxi locks in the pact, revealing she has already recruited 2 other capable warriors. Starting today, the entire squad will endure grueling afternoon training sessions. With those words, she quietly vanishes. At last, he crushes the crimson ant. He scrambles to claim the dimensional energy crystal, but upon contact, a terrifying swarm of insects ambushes him. He swiftly terminates the game, intending to analyze his newfound prize later. He senses an ominous dread. His device and very flesh begin pulsing with a violent crimson aura, drowning him in an overwhelming sensation. It appears the newly acquired crystal triggered this terrifying resonance. Based on his lore, the Vigor Ant crystal is a mythical primordial energy skill crystal. He is unsure what divine ability it might bestow. Wasting no time, he smears a drop of lifeblood onto the screen, awakening the system to witness what is unfolding. Checking the interface, a revelation hits him. A primordial energy skill is now unlocked. Later, all 4 warriors assemble. Fang Ruoxi officially presents Joe Wen as their 4th teammate to the remaining duo. The 2 men raise their brows in sheer doubt. While acknowledging Joe Wen's past glory, his lack of training for over 30 days makes them question if his peak strength remains. A blonde-haired fighter steps forward, sharply declaring that their ultimate destiny is seizing first place in Guide City's martial entrance exam. He coldly voices his fear that this boy lacks the power they need, proposing they recruit a warrior named Young Yi instead. Honestly, Joe Wen easily comprehends their blatant hesitation. The college entrance combat trial is a monumental battlefield. It holds the absolute power to shape the rest of their mortal lives, forging paths into elite academies, determining career destinies, and ultimately, cementing their rank among society's absolute apex. Furthermore, powerful comrades mean survival, so their logic is flawless in demanding an invincible vanguard. Ruoxi passionately argues that although Zheng Yi possesses undeniable might, she still believes Joe Wen is their ultimate weapon. The blonde warrior smirks, issuing a simple trial of combat to measure their raw power, provided Joe Wen accepts the challenge. Ruoxi raises a curious gaze, questioning this trial. The blonde fighter boasts that since he considers himself the weakest link, Joe Wen must duel him. If the fallen genius claims victory, to join the team, he must win. Losing means exile. Our boy questions the brutal risks of combat, noting that senseless injuries benefit no one. But the blonde youth sharply interjects. He claims that the Academy's strength testers merely display hollow numbers. They will settle this dispute through absolute combat. First to yield falls. Hearing this, Ru anxiously compares Tian's martial prowess against Zhou Wen's. She genuinely fears for our hero. After all, he has never used dimensional crystals to exhaust her hero, fuel his cultivation. Born into a humble family, he likely lacks any true chi techniques. Despite her deep worry, she eagerly watches his next move. Meanwhile, Joe Wen prefers the testing machines to measure their raw power. Tian scoffs, mocking his courage. Our boy awkwardly scratches his head, afraid. His single strike might cripple them. Ultimately, they agree to the machines. Tian steps up, throwing a devastating punch. The crowd holds its breath. The heavy machine calculates a sheer strength score of 7 points. Joan realizes this physical metric differs slightly from his in-game stats. However, the scaling is remarkably close. He possessed similar strength prior to gaming. Tian dares our hero to face the monolithic machine. When our boy finally strikes, a thunderous shockwave violently echoes through the academy halls. A bald instructor, wandering the silent corridors, catches the blast. He questions who would test their might during rest hours. Driven by sheer curiosity, he approaches the testing chamber. Pushing the door, he spots Joe Wen's group. He stands completely bewildered, wondering if this ordinary student threw that monstrous strike. Yes, it was him. Dead silence fills the room as the screen flashes a strength score of 10. Even the hidden elder watching from the shadows is utterly stunned. The elder reevaluates everything, realizing Joe never slacked off. He must have trained so ruthlessly that exhaustion forced him to sleep in class. The wise principal's bold claims about Joe were absolutely flawless. Meanwhile, Ru stands paralyzed, awestruck by our hero's choice to use the hardest method for striking. Scoring 10 solid points without relying on a single chi technique is unheard of. Tian trembles with blazing frustration. Swallowing his shattered pride, he loudly declares, "Our boy worthy." Desperate to salvage his fleeting dignity, Tian prepares one final all-out strike. Lightning violently crackles around his fist as he obliterates the pad. The screen flashes a staggering score of 11. The explosive output leaves Tian drained. Our boy casually offers a thumbs up. Yet, Joe looks incredibly intrigued. Tian barks at him to wake up, demanding he beat 11 or suffer the bitter sting of defeat. Our boy calmly turns to his peers, asking if the academy charges for broken machinery. Blondie arrogantly vows to cover any repair costs. Reassured by this solid promise, a fearless smirk graces his face. Radiant yellow energy erupts around his body. Blondie scoffs. Certain Joe Wen is merely bluffing. This heavy-duty monolith measures up to 20 points. Barely any mortal student could ever scratch that legendary limit. Surging with absolute power, our hero unleashes a ki-infused fist. Ru is paralyzed, witnessing his true martial arts. The devastating impact instantly shreds the sturdy machine. Circuits fry under the overwhelming pressure. The crowd freezes as he effortlessly crushes the tester. The bald instructor's jaw drops. That armored device was built to withstand 20 solid points of raw impact. Destroying it requires a terrifying rank 8 or 9 chi technique. Suddenly, the instructor remembers the principal naming Joe a supreme genius. The truth behind those bold words finally hits him like a shockwave. Ru always sensed his hidden strength, but witnessing this godly display completely shatters her expectations. As dusk falls, Our hero calmly wanders down a desolate city street. Yet, his mind drifts to his previous clash with Anjing. He remains baffled. Why would a legendary figure, even Arius, challenge a mere Mortal League student? Having never stepped foot outside Guida province, he simply cannot fathom how he provoked her. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. His father calls, inviting him to his impending wedding. Curious, our boy asks about the bride. His playboy father instantly forwards a photo of a woman with massive assets, casually asking if he approves of his new stepmother. What a chaotic family chat. Pushing past the shock, our boy asks for the details. His father cheerfully replies, "Week." He reminds his father his college entrance exam is next week, so he cannot attend the wedding, despite his wishes. He then asks if an iron cookie box sits in the closet room. Clueless as always, his father denies it. Joe describes a square iron box, roughly 10 inches long, bearing a PEI, cartoon bear. His father recalls the bear cookies he once ate, explaining that the specific brand is no longer sold. Curious about Joe's sudden interest, he questions this unexpected inquiry. Our protagonist reveals a phone hidden inside, asking if his father left it there. His father asks if the device features a white metal shell, black screen, 0 keys, and is 7 or 8 inches long. Joe confirms. His dad says it belongs to his grandfather. Stunned, Joe asks how he obtained this mysterious artifact. His father then unfolds a wild tale. His grandfather worked as a carpenter during the grand reconstruction of the ancient Guide City. They restored countless old wooden structures. After a year of labor, one night, while a few workers burned the midnight oil, they uncovered an ancient dry well hidden on the site. Something was shimmering deep inside. Thinking they had struck gold, they peered closer. A mysterious box lay within the well. As they pulled the rotting wooden box from the depths, an eerie light seeped through its cracks. Inside the box lay the phone. Its screen glowed brightly, only to go dead the second it was removed. The device had no keys or charging ports, appearing utterly lifeless. Disappointment washed over the men at this useless discovery. Assuming it was merely a prank, they moved on. Thus, his grandfather tossed it into his heavy toolkit. His dad adds that the relic refused to turn on. In his youth, he even tried pawning it off at a local repair shop for cigarette money. Deemed utterly worthless by the owner, it was discarded into the cookie box. Now, he wonders if Joe plans to sell it. Inwardly, Joe breathes a sigh of relief. If his father had succeeded, he would never have claimed this artifact. He asks if the screen ever lit up again. His father replies, "Definitely not," noting it sat dormant for decades. His father hastily ends the call, citing other pressing matters. The wedding details are set. Attendance is solely up to Joe. As the line goes dead, Joe silently reflects. His true combat test will take place in the ancient Guide City. He decides he must investigate the ancient well for hidden clues. Returning home, he quickly reworks his battle strategy. Days pass, turning into a routine. He slumbers through lectures and naps beneath trees while rivals train, silently grinding his game. Days later, tension strikes the corridor. 2 students sprint blindly. A bespectacled boy crashes hard into an aristocrat of imposing aura. The boy in glasses hits the floor violently, yet the blonde noble barely flinches. He stands unmoving, radiating an unsettling dark pressure. The blonde walks away, with his elite entourage. Whispers erupt from the shadows, fearing his overwhelming presence. The scene shifts. Outside, revealing Tien. Without hesitation, he announces his departure, claiming another friend has invited him to join their squad. He walks away, leaving Joe questioning if Roxy holds a backup strategy. With the trial looming near, finding a replacement is nearly impossible. Joe calls out to his remaining ally, Li Ji, asking about Tien's exit. Li drops a heavy bomb. He refuses to team up with our hero, begging not to be questioned about his sudden betrayal. Finally, Ruai appears, looking shattered. It is obvious why sorrow consumes her. Their ranks have collapsed. Spotting Joe, she apologizes quickly, but he urges her not to stress. He admits the fault lies entirely with him. He is the true reason everyone fled in fear. Apparently, powerful enemies are hunting him from the shadows, driving his allies away. She notes she has no idea who he has offended. but warns that this foe wields terrifying authority. He must tread carefully. He agrees, and they part ways. His mind races regarding the looming bloodbath, desperate to secure reliable allies in time. Even his most trusted companion, R, refuses to fight by his side, terrified of the lethal danger he attracts. As he departs, the bald instructor halts him. Facing his master, Joe learns a startling truth. Inspector Ong is a military titan named Ong Tianzuo. He asks if Joe recognizes the name. Our hero confirms he does not. The old man finds this suspicious. Why would a supreme military commander publicly single out and criticize a mere high schooler during his guide city inspection? Joe demands to know this man's true identity. The bald mentor reveals the truth. The Earth Federation is split into 4 absolute domains: East, South, West, and North. He comes from a renowned family. At just over 20, he is already a senior officer in the East Region military. He is a formidable figure. The boy asks if Inspector Ong is targeting him. The teacher says he cannot be certain. However, Tianzuo publicly stated our boy was a terrible student. Everyone agreed, especially those desperate to please Inspector Ang. Furious, he asks if a senior officer like Ang fails to realize how his mere words could ruin a student's life. He then asks if Ong is related to Enjing, the fierce woman he fought a month ago. The bald man admits the chance, but warns against jumping to conclusions. Right now, their utmost priority is finding our findings are one, boy a team for the test. The deadline is the day after tomorrow, leaving 0 time to lose. Furthermore, his teammates cannot be ordinary students. The old man reveals a strong student named Li Xuan attends their academy. If this elite student accepts our boy into his team, the bald man believes no one will cross him. However, a strict condition remains. Our boy must fight hard to boost Luan's score, ensuring Luan ranks highest among the 4 members. The boy's eyes narrow, asking if the old man expects him to yield his points to the newcomer, to which the old man nods, declaring this as his absolute final chance to join the match. The boy accepts the terms and tells the old man to contact Lean. After the meeting, Joe immediately dials his father, asking about Inspector Ang Tianzuo. That is when his father drops a massive bombshell. The mighty Ang Tianzuo is actually our boy's brother. This news strikes our boy like a massive thunderbolt. His father calmly explains that Tianzuo is the son of his stepmother. Once married, Tianzuo will officially become his brother. As if that was not enough, his father also reveals he has a sister named An Jing. The puzzle pieces finally align. This explains why An Jing appeared out of nowhere to challenge him before the entire academy. It was a calculated move to shatter his reputation. He quickly asks his dad if those siblings actually like their new father. In response, his dad claims they both respect him deeply. After ending the call, Joe only wonders why these powerful siblings are trying to mess with. He wonders if they fiercely oppose the union of his father and their mother. He reflects on how Tianzuo flaunted his authority to block his exam entry, and An Jing defeated him with a single devastating strike, all because he lacks the power to fight back. Swallowing his pride, he returns to his stinky apartment and dives into his game, knowing leveling up is his best way to survive. After slaying a terrifying mutated ant, he receives a special drop, a symbiotic egg. Joe's heart races with excitement. He knows acquiring a symbiotic pet at the mortal level is nearly impossible, as most only obtain them at the legendary stage. The moment his blood avatar attempts to grab the egg, it cracks and strikes his chest. Suddenly, a powerful voice echoes in his mind, calling him master and pledging loyalty, even offering to die for him. Intense pain courses through his entire body, and he quickly sits back on his bed with a pounding headache. But then, he notices a mysterious new tattoo on his hand. Once he checks his mobile phone, the system confirms he now owns a mutated immense strength ant. This fierce pet can be used in its symbiotic form as a brutal fist weapon. Thrilled, he covers the windows with curtains for privacy and aims to summon his new pet. Unsure of the exact method, he begins visualizing his fierce companion. Just as he concentrates, his hand gathers raw energy. A fierce, glove-like weapon forms above his hand. It turns out this glove is his pet's true symbiotic form, designed to massively amplify his abilities. He then decides to summon the Mutated Immense Strength Ant itself. As the glove dissolves into mist, the crimson aura starts shaping into the Yana. Ant. It forms into a furious yet surprisingly cute creature. Startled, our boy is slightly intimidated. And not going to lie, this pet is vastly larger than expected. Regardless, our boy decides he will try riding his mount some other time, preferably outside. The next day dawns, and we see the bald teacher escorting our boy to meet Lean. The old man warns that Lean acts somewhat arrogantly, but swears he is not a bad person. Since they are only teaming up, for the test there is nothing to fear. Their car speeds down the highway, eventually arriving at a grand location, called the Honorable Royal Health Club. Inside, a servant greets the old man, who firmly states they seek the second son of the Lee family. Hearing this, the servant guides them inside. As they enter, it becomes clear. The old man was right about Lean's massive ego. The place is majestic, and the man is surrounded by girls. He has the swagger of a hip-hop rapper, acting like he rules the world after earning a measly few $100. Xuan offers the bald teacher a seat and drink. The old man firmly refuses, getting straight to the point. He introduces. The elder immediately vouches for our main character, assuring Xuan of his absolute competence. He guarantees this kid will secure a high score. Xuan dismisses the pitch, claiming he trusts Bali entirely. He takes the boy as his teammate, solely as a favor. The alliance forged, the old man prepares to depart. He instructs them to strategize. Before leaving, he turns to our hero, urging him to bond with Luan and his squad. The trials are fast approaching, leaving no room for error. As the elder vanishes, Yan locks eyes with Joe. He mentions the rumors, calling him the ultimate prodigy of Gua High School. Joe simply shrugs, dismissing the title as mere gossip. He advises him to ignore the hype. Luan scoffs in agreement, noting that true geniuses cannot be born in such a miserable, remote province. He coldly reminds Joe of his humiliating one-strike defeat at the hands of Anjing. He then lays down his absolute rules, declaring that Joe is exempt from all team training. His only duty is to obey commands blindly and stay completely out of the way. He then issues a sudden challenge. If Joe can down an entire bottle of liquor in a single breath, he will let him pick any girl in the club. Yet, Joe's gaze remains locked on his phone. Without looking up, he bluntly states he does not drink. The playboy's ego takes a hit. Irritated by Joe's arrogance, he questions if Bailey's desperate plea to recruit this useless brat was a mistake. Seeking to test Joe, Luan orders a girl to entertain our hero. The woman teases Zan for his wicked games, then slithers over to Joe. She hovers dangerously close, attempting to capture his focus with her physical assets. However, Joe remains an immovable mountain. His eyes never leave the screen, even as she invades his personal space. It is blatantly obvious that our hero has zero time for such distractions. The silver-winged mosquito monster demands his absolute focus. But the woman relentlessly presses on, her persistence quickly igniting his pure annoyance. Her interference throws his focus off, putting his in-game avatar in lethal danger. Right on the brink of absolute defeat, Joe shoves the annoying woman aside with absolute authority. His fingers fly across the screen, flawlessly steering his avatar from death. The playboy nearly chokes on his liquor, completely dumbfounded. This kid just threw a woman away to save a digital life. The entire room erupts into mocking laughter at the ridiculous scene. Ultimately, Joe's screen flashes defeat, leaving him visibly frustrated with the brutal loss. Surprisingly, Xuan begins to respect Joe's unapologetic attitude. As the dark night descends, the suite is trashed with empty bottles. Lean appears dead to the world alongside his companion, but a percanta closer glance reveals his eyes are wide open. Meanwhile, Joe is locked in a fierce digital war, fiercely determined to crush the Ponides, silver-winged mosquito. No matter his strategy, the vile insect mercilessly slaughters his avatar time and time again. He battles until dawn, yet every single attempt crumbles into dust. The monstrous bug is not quite at the portent. Legendary tier, meaning victory is within grasp. Joe calculates that a flawless rank 9 power punch could completely shatter its defenses. But the move's slow execution speed is a fatal flaw. He wonders if he can fuse it with a rapid movement technique. Because his avatar mirrors his physical stats, Joe realizes that mastering the power punch in reality will directly upgrade his digital counterpart. He immediately begins throwing punches, desperately seeking that power spike. As Joe trains, Lean watches silently from the shadows, fascinated by his unbreakable discipline. He cannot comprehend what technique the boy is refining. The strange punching motions look like utter nonsense to him. Dismissing the bizarre sight, he assumes it is just a useless skill. Seeing no real aura in the strikes, he finally closes his eyes. The ultimate college entrance. Exam finally dawns. Joe intensely focuses on his paper, while Leon tackles the same crucial test. When the bell rings and the candidates flood out, the devastating difficulty of the trial is evident. Every single face is painted with pure exhaustion. Days later, an armored bus speeds down the desolate highway, advancing toward the ancient Gua city. Decades ago, a catastrophic dimensional storm ripped the sky apart. A terrifying rift mutated the city into a nightmarish wasteland, crawling with savage beasts and deadly flora. Elite troops locked down the perimeter, barring anyone without top-tier clearance. Here, in this blood-soaked ruin, the true combat trial will commence. The heavy doors hiss open, and as the students disembark, Joe senses the sharp gaze of armed sentinels tracking their every move. While waiting for his squad to assemble, his eyes scan the imposing Gua Province monument. Right beside the towering letters, a mysterious palm-shaped crest, carved into the stone, captures his absolute attention. Suddenly, a vibration shatters his focus. Assuming it is his father, he reaches into his pocket. To his absolute shock, it is his mysterious gaming device. This cursed artifact had never possessed any cellular functions before. Its sudden ringing sends a chill down his spine. But the ultimate revelation is the sudden activation of its camera. He opens the mysterious lens, completely unsure of what dark secret it demands him to capture. Deciding against selfies, he photographs the breathtaking landscape instead. Yet, the mysterious phone's camera fails to cooperate. Fumbling with the device, he accidentally aims it at the palm-shaped emblem marking Gua Province. The device instantly scans the symbol. As he snaps the shot, a strange application materializes on screen. It appears to be a gateway into a digital dungeon. With time to spare, he decides to test his fate. After shedding a single drop of blood, his digital avatar manifests. He finds himself exploring what looks like a virtual Gua city. Stepping forward, he encounters an otherworldly being, a rather comical skeleton soldier. The creature charges, brandishing a massive weapon, plunging our hero into sudden combat. Joe swiftly evades the undead's clumsy strikes with absolute ease. Barely breaking a sweat, he realizes this foe lacks both speed and power. It is nothing compared to the monstrous ants he normally faces. His avatar clenches its fist, unleashing a devastating punch that shatters the undead to dust. A crystal drops instantly, and Joe is thrilled to claim a skill crystal on his very first kill. He activates absorption, and the crystal's raw energy surges into his veins. It lacks the expected agony, flowing far smoother than his past awakenings. The system chimes in, declaring he acquired the skeleton palm technique, demanding a chi cost of merely 1 point. It seems like a flawless start, yet Joe remains unimpressed. He knows these undead are bottom tier, offering only basic skills with minimal energy cost. Still, he pushes forward to test his newfound power. With a flash of light, he summons his mutated immense strength ant and leaps onto its armored back. The beast charges through the ancient ruins, its terrifying speed driving them deeper into the dungeon. Moments later, a horde of skeletal zombies blocks his path. He carves through them, effortlessly, treating them as mere practice targets. Confident that every kill will yield more crystals, he revels in the thrill of the hunt. However, his excitement soon fades. He realizes he has gained absolutely nothing, despite slaughtering countless skeleton soldiers. Venturing deeper into the abyss, a shocking sight awaits him. A horde of minor undead guards the final boss, a massive skeletal warrior mounted atop a phantom steed. The skeleton knight wastes zero time. Moving with blinding speed, it delivers a lethal strike that pierces Joe's avatar, erasing him instantly. When the simulation ends, he glares at the province emblem. He knows for certain that beyond that gate, Gua Province conceals far deadlier secrets. Suddenly, a presence looms behind him. Whirling around, he locks eyes with his stepsister, who as always, glares at him with pure disdain. Moments later, Joe is seen gripping a flash drive, though it remains a mystery how he obtained it. A flashback reveals his stepsister throwing a vicious punch at his face, halting millimeters from his skin. She coldly stated their father ordered her to deliver an item before forcefully shoving the drive into his hands. Walking away, she openly mocks their father for wasting resources on a failure like Joe, branding him a complete loser. She declares he will never truly belong to the Yang family, as their bloodline tolerates no one so utterly weak and useless. Joe merely scoffs, wondering when he ever claimed to be her family. Lost in thought, a voice breaks his focus. It is Xuan. Turning around, he spots Xuan arriving alongside two other squad members. The guy is dressed so casually, looking geared for a beach vacation rather than a life-or-death trial. The arrogant playboy claps a hand on Joe's shoulder, telling him to relax, claiming his hired muscle will carry them through. The two lackeys eagerly nod along. One even arrogantly boasts he could conquer the entirety of Guida province single-handedly for his master. Xuan remains thoroughly unamused by this blind arrogance. The second lackey, wearing a dark hat, steps up, vowing flawless execution without a single mistake. Observing this dynamic, Joe instantly understands the game. Xuan plans to keep them both safely on the sidelines, using these two loyal pawns as human shields. The hour of the trial finally strikes. A guard orders all candidates to approach the examiner. Then, Ruoxi appears in the crowd, and Joe quickly spots her. He flashes a reassuring smile and a thumbs up, which seems to ease her anxiety, glad he secured a team. Suddenly, the massive city gates rumble open. A blinding, blue energy surges forth, tearing open a dimensional portal. A bespectacled man, the chief examiner, steps forward to lay out the ironclad rules. Points will be tallied strictly by the crystals harvested from slaughtered skeleton soldiers. That final, crystal count will dictate their ultimate ranking. With the rules set, he commands the candidates to enter the abyss. Joe strides fearlessly toward the glowing rift. Stepping through the spatial tear, he instantly materializes on the other side alongside. Fellow candidates brace for the incoming trials. Undead beasts suddenly emerge from the earth, and the bossed examinees clash against them with desperate ferocity. Amidst the chaos, the skeletal horde rattles forward, their hollow frames echoing ominously. The dark-clothed combatant annihilates an undead with one strike, cleaving its skull effortlessly. Nearby, the arrogant fighter seizes an enemy's bony grip and delivers a devastating knee strike, reducing it to dust. It appears Joe has absolutely nothing to fear, as this squad possesses overwhelming strength. Relieved, he uses this precious opening to investigate a lingering mystery on his device. Xuan, meanwhile, watches in utter bewilderment. Seeing Joe distracted, he questions whether this boy is a hidden genius or a complete fraud. Yet, the truth Joe seeks to verify proves terrifyingly accurate. He studies the virtual map, realizing something grim. Beyond the city gates, the architectural structures perfectly mirror the digital domain. This discovery sparks a chilling thought. Is every realm grounded in reality? A profound dread washes over his face. Absolute terror grips his soul. If this physical domain shares the virtual rules, the dreaded skeleton knight must be lurking nearby. Fortunately, based on his previous digital expeditions, they remain safely distant from that demonic entity. Remaining within the designated zone guarantees they avoid that nightmare. Soon, the party gathers to plot their descent into the ruins. However, Joe remains paralyzed by hesitation, burdened by the horrific truth. The subordinates insist that the outer undead forces have been decimated, and enemy reinforcements are dwindling rapidly. To achieve unparalleled glory in this trial, they must forge into the abyss. Joe frantically warns them that breaching the boundaries invites absolute ruin. But Xuan simply dismisses the warning, suggesting the coward can remain behind. The loyal followers echo this sentiment, declaring victory lies in the depths. Xuan commands Joe to follow closely, swearing his vanguard will shield him from harm. Caught in a deadly dilemma, Joe realizes he cannot reveal the true terror lurking in the shadows. Stowing his device, he reluctantly accepts his fate alongside the squad. He resolves to duel the spectral knight virtually, desperate to uncover a fatal weakness. It remains the only path to ensure their survival in this deadly game. The twin guards surge forward, obliterating the undead ranks with explosive abilities. Meanwhile, Xuan strolls casually, while Joe plunges back into his digital battle. Inside the simulation, he faces merciless slaughter at the hands of the Skeleton King. Suffering consecutive losses, Joe confronts a brutal truth. Evasion is entirely futile. The spectral blade strikes with unerring precision, projecting a terror far greater than the silver-winged mosquito. Suddenly, an epiphany strikes. The monarch lacks continuous agility, only accelerating during lethal charges. He theorizes the beast channels a martial aura to execute this blinding velocity. Without a viable countermeasure, their entire party faces imminent annihilation. Then, a glimmer catches his eye. A fallen beast yields a massive dimensional crystal. One of the subordinates seizes the shimmering artifact, presenting it proudly to their leader. As the gemstone is delivered, Joe firmly warns Xuan they have secured sufficient glory, and immediate retreat is vital. Yet, the Imalter follower scoffs, insisting that the trial's clock still offers abundant time. The dark-clad warrior nods in agreement, hungry for absolute dominance on the leaderboard. Xuan reviews his device, confirming the absence of legendary threats. He deems the uncharted territory perfectly safe. Suddenly, Joe seizes his arm, eyes burning with intensity. "Do you believe in survival instincts?" Xuan stares, bewildered. Joe reveals his flawless intuition, a primal warning system that triggers before absolute disaster strikes. A suffocating dread now clouds his senses, warning of an impending massacre. Unsurprisingly, a henchman mocks this grim prophecy. He viciously reprimands Joe, demanding absolute gratitude for their merciful protection. He dares Joe not to hinder their conquest with baseless cowardice. Joe fiercely retaliates. He declares that Guida province candidates never breach the sanctuary boundaries. Their current score guarantees absolute victory, provided they hunt safely within the designated zone. Marching into the abyss is sheer madness. The heavy truth of his warning finally pierces Xuan's confidence, forcing his agreement, but the truth is cut short. Suddenly, the Black Hat assassin draws a wicked dagger, plunging it straight into Jean's back. Landing this cowardly strike, the traitor smirks. He grins like a predator, claiming its helpless prey. Relishing his vile betrayal, he watches the blonde subordinate rush forward. The loyal servant tries to shield his master, only to be ruthlessly struck down as well. Eyes burning with pure malice, the Black Hat assassin glares at the fallen men, commanding them to perish like miserable dogs. However, the playboy calmly admits his surprise. In a flash, his fatal wound fully regenerates, and he glares at the treacherous assassin. He coldly asks if his brother ordered this strike. The assassin freezes, utterly shocked that a mere playboy like Xuan has mastered the chi spell called Invincible Constitution. To understand the true weight of this profound chi spell, know that chi spells transcend standard fighting arts or dimensional crystals. They are ancient, secret techniques forged by human masters. Each spell possesses absolute cultivation boundaries. The Invincible Constitution remains a legendary art, uniquely capable of elevating a mortal's ultimate potential directly into the epic tier. Yet, strict lore dictates only the pure can cultivate this path. If they ever surrender their purity, their power resets to absolute zero. Our hero watches in disbelief, highly skeptical that Zan could master this ascendant spell, while constantly swimming in endless romance. Suddenly, the wounded subordinate on the blood-stained earth breaks the silence. He coughs out his crushing betrayal, devastated that a comrade aided Limoy against January. The playboy's eyes dim with sorrow. He never desired the throne or his brother's authority. He simply cannot fathom why his own blood demands his execution. The assassin sneers with cold arrogance. He mocks that Zan brought this tragic destiny upon his own head. Without wasting another breath, the killer channels pure lethal aura into his blade. He unleashes a vicious green energy wave at the playboy. Yet, the man smoothly dodges the deadly strike with impossible, effortless grace. Our hero and the injured guard freeze in absolute terror as a massive shadow looms. The towering explosive scale snake materializes. The horrific truth sinks in. This assassin is no mere mortal, possessing terrifying might. Summoning a legendary tier beast requires unfathomable power. Meanwhile, Xuan stands utterly unmoved, his gaze as calm as still water. He coldly reveals the dark truth. Legendary beasts can be artificially hatched, provided an elite master sacrifices an agonizingly heavy price to bind the creature's symbiotic egg. The wicked traitor smirks, deeply amused by the profound wisdom tumbling from our Mauer playboy's lips. But hesitation is fatal. Gathering explosive momentum, the killer lunges at Zan with killing intent. Xuan simply catches, the deadly blade barehanded, completely unfazed. The assassin's eyes widen in absolute horror. He is devastatingly unprepared for this monstrous display of overwhelming dominance. The playboy's gentle mask shatters, replaced by a terrifying aura straight from the abyss. With one effortless flick, he detonates a catastrophic surge of energy. The shockwave blasts the scrawny killer violently across the earth. The truth is undeniable. Jan is a hidden monster, harboring world-shaking power alongside his own legendary tier beast. As he Hanem strides forward, chaotic dark aura violently erupts around him. He looks like a supreme demon king descending. The battlefield is primed for a legendary clash. This suffocating, murderous intent shatters the assassin's courage, forcing him into a desperate, pathetic retreat for his very survival. But Xuan offers no mercy to traitors. He explodes forward, hunting his prey with relentless, terrifying speed. Nearby, Joe struggles desperately to track the pursuit. Their godlike velocity leaves him completely in the dust, entirely losing their trail. The wounded guard begs Joe to advance, demanding he rescue Xuan at all costs. Joe calmly replies, "You go ahead. I will. Catch up later." The blonde guard burns with rage, cursing Joe as a pathetic coward before charging blindly ahead for his master. But Joe remains coldly logical. Rushing in means senseless suicide. Both Xuan and Zhanghe wield the catastrophic might of legendary tier beasts, firepower he severely lacks today. His ultimate nightmare remains the dread-inducing skeleton knight, and he is absolutely certain that encountering that undead nightmare guarantees absolute annihilation. The only path to saving Lowan lies in neutralizing this supreme undead threat first. Facing the skeleton knight, Joe bites his thumb, shedding fresh blood. With this sacrifice, his digital avatar triumphantly resurrects. He is absolutely determined to decipher the Dark Knight's weakness in the virtual realm, to conquer it in reality. The undead fiend spurs its phantom steed into a terrifying charge. The chilling truth hits Joe instantly. Fleeing from this Death Knight is utterly pointless. Once its demonic charge locks on, evasion becomes a myth. Embracing the danger, Joe violently launches himself directly toward the beast. This suicidal bravery shatters the hollow monster's rhythm. Enraged, the Dark Knight wildly thrusts its bone-crushing lance with lethal intent. Death sweeps past Joe by mere inches. But our hero refuses to be prey. He dances through the destruction, weaving circles around. The mounted terror. The undead warrior thrashes, desperately craving a killing blow. The battlefield boils as Joe executes flawless, rapid-fire evasions, dodging left and right. Suddenly, the skeletal fiend triggers its ultimate skill, slamming a devastating strike directly through the avatar's core. This fatal opening came from sheer distraction, lured by the distant chaos. He is absolutely certain Zan has finally awakened the distrong, dreaded Skeleton King. Slipping his device away, Joe's mind races back, analyzing the agonizing lessons from his previous deadly encounters. He recalls the game's lore. The Skeleton Knight boasted immense power, but hid a fatal blind spot that could be exploited near his spectral steed. If they strike that weakness, survival is absolutely guaranteed. As he pushes forward, shattered rubble points the way. A fierce battle raged nearby. Following the trail, he finally locates his allies. He rushes in, demanding to know if they survived. The armored playboy scoffs, saying, "Being fine is a massive stretch. This skeletal horror exists on an entirely different plane of power." Chu is paralyzed by sheer fear. Facing the skeleton knight in reality is infinitely more terrifying than the game. He also spots the black hat lurking behind the undead warlord. He is utterly shocked to realize the skeleton is not targeting the black hat at all. But then he spots the armor. That specific gear must be why the skeleton knight ignores him completely. By the way, this black hat is Young Hao. Joe feels a sudden chill, realizing that Xuan's brother possesses insane wealth to arm this assassin with an army of legendary rank creatures. The knight locks onto our heroes. It charges on its spectral steed. But the playboy leaps into the fray, commanding everyone to fall back. He hoists his shield right as the monster strikes. When their attacks clash, a devastating explosion erupts. The shockwaves are so violent that the guy beside Joe is swatted away like a fermented, mere insect, crashing down with a heavy thud. He coughs violently but stubbornly claims he is fine, ignoring the agonizing pain. As the smoke clears, the Skeleton King and Playboy clash in a fierce deadlock. Suddenly, the Playboy spots a lethal ambush approaching. It is Zhanghe's explosive serpent, but Xuan fiercely raises his shield, blocking the beast dead in its tracks. Zhanghe recalls his snake and smiles like a maniac, declaring he is thrilled to see how Zan handles both threats. As the towering skeleton knight relentlessly hammers down on Playboy, this arrogant thug also attacks, pushing Zan into a desperate corner. His heavy armor begins to fracture under the merciless assault, signaling an incoming disaster. Joe urgently asks the Playboy how long it will take to crush Zhang if he lures the Skeleton King away. Without hesitation, Xuan proudly boasts that it will only take 2 minutes. His confidence is absolute. Meanwhile, the wicked lackey just sneers. Inwardly, he is certain Joe is a mere mortal level. Surviving the skeleton knight's wrath is totally impossible. If Joe fights, he is basically begging for death. However, our hero dramatically sheds his heavy coat, shifting into a flawless stance. He leaps behind the Skeleton King and casually taunts the beast, challenging it to a duel. The brainless undead takes the bait, looming fiercely over our boy. Without a second thought, it lunges with deadly force. Our guy cleanly evades the strike. He realizes this attack pattern matches what he fought in the game. However, as the spectral horse steps, its massive hooves shatter the solid earth. Our guy swiftly rolls past a lethal blow, sprinting like a shadow to avoid total annihilation. Joe realizes that unlike the game version, this real-life skeleton knight moves with terrifying agility. The fierce back-and-forth dance continues, and as the knight relentlessly slashes, our hero weaves through the chaos, staying a hair out of reach. He then clenches his fist, landing a brutal punch against the steed's ribcage. But the impact proves to be as harmless as a raindrop striking a mountain. The Skeleton King visibly enjoys toying with this supposed weakling, while our boy desperately searches for a fatal opening. Meanwhile, the other blondie slowly gets back up. He feels utterly pathetic seeing our guy stall an apex monster without even wielding a symbiotic beast. Even the black hat stands totally paralyzed, stunned that our boy is dodging death so casually. Right then, Xuan warns the black hat that losing focus on the battlefield means death. He unleashes a devastating smash right to the bastard's face, blasting him away like a broken doll. Shockingly, the enemy regains his balance and locks eyes with January. He radiates bloodlust, proving he will fight until either he or his target drops dead. The savage exchange of brutal blows resumes. Our Playboy glares back, happy to oblige if this arrogant black hat desperately wishes to visit the afterlife. Finally, the black hat's defenses crumble. That last strike from our armored hero violently ends the fight. He coughs up blood, and his symbiotic beast begins to fracture into pieces. But this fanatic simply refuses to die. He scrambles to his knees, summoning his secondary snake beast to distract Zan once more. With the Playboy distracted, the treacherous scumbag launches a fatal sneak attack from behind. At the blotter exact moment, the skeleton swings its heavy blade. But our boy drops low with god-tier reflexes, dodging both and evading the strikes. Joe clenches his fist. He brings down a crushing blow upon Black Hat's symbiotic beast. A single devastating punch. Joe wields his own symbiote like a lethal gauntlet. As soon as Black Hat loses his beast, the skeleton knight strikes. Its spear pierces straight through Black Hat's chest. The snake screeches in agony, shrinking from a beast into a tiny gecko. Without hesitation, the armored warrior steps on the kata, vile creature, ending its life instantly. With that threat erased, the Skeleton King begins to mutate, unleashing its absolute power. Radiating a dreadful aura, the monster immediately charges straight toward Joe. The creature's speed is overwhelming. Unable to dodge in time, Joe braces himself to take the brutal strike head-on. But Lean lunges forward, swiftly deflecting the blow. The strike packs such terrifying force that Xuan absorbs the devastating impact. His armor begins shattering like fragile glass. Witnessing this, Joe panics, realizing the mighty armored warrior is pushed to the absolute brink. Meanwhile, the towering Skeleton King prepares for another lethal strike. The two instantly retreat. In that desperate moment, the playboy forms a plan. Joe must deliver the final, killing strike to the beast. The armored fighter takes it upon himself to distract. The menace. As soon as the Skeleton King unleashes its wrath, the armored warrior swoops in to intercept. While he clashes with the dead king, Joe spots a crucial opening. He appears right behind its hollow skull, clenching his fist to land a devastating strike. Fiery energy engulfs the skeleton, rattling the surrounding earth. As the dust clears, the skeleton knight stands completely unfazed. Joe watches in shock, realizing the monster did not even flinch. The beast fiercely retaliates, but Joe leaps from danger's path, evading with the grace of pure instinct. The armored warrior blocks the knight's heavy blade head-on. Joe then erupts with a blazing barrage of punches, scorching the Skeleton King. His blinding speed sparks a massive explosion upon impact. The armored knight is utterly stunned by the relentless assault. Yet, the enemy remains unmoved. Through the lingering smoke, the monster's fury boils over. Joe suddenly spots a deep mark on the creature's bone plating. A closer glance reveals a fatal crack, fracturing its thick skull. The armored warrior instantly grasps the winning strategy. He hurls Joe high into the air, charging forward to bait the skeleton king with a lethal blow. The giant beast looks up, only to see Joe descending like a meteor. The monster tries to raise its blade, but Schwan breaks his limits. He pins the enemy's sword to the earth, leaving the king entirely defenseless. Joe crashes down, smashing a ruinous fist directly into its skull. The crushing force utterly shatters the knight's skull, triggering a colossal blast. Joe flashes a triumphant grin as the Skeleton King crumbles into lifeless dust. Among the ruins lies a crystal, a undeniable mark of victory. Joe wastes no time rushing to claim his prize, but a closer look reveals it is not a gem at all. It is a rare symbiotic egg. This is an unimaginable jackpot. Lewin turns to walk away, his armor vanishing into the air. He lets Joe claim the precious egg. Tossing on his hoodie, he firmly reminds Joe that, without his timely strikes, they would be corpses. This egg is a reward for his bravery. However, he also warns Joe his current rank cannot sustain a legendary beast. Hatching the skeleton's egg right now would be a fatal mistake. Joe nods in agreement. Suddenly, Gon notices his gauntlet, questioning how a rookie acquired such a beast. The playboy grows suspicious. Only someone with the invincible constitution could ever tame a legendary creature like the Black Armor Soldier. He wonders if Joe is secretly hiding a legendary rank. Joe quickly shuts that down, confirming he is merely at the mortal level. This truth leaves Jan utterly stunned. Legendary creatures possess absolute power, making their symbiotic eggs incredibly difficult to form. Yet, mortal-tier eggs are actually vastly rarer than legendary ones. Realizing this, Schwan feels a sharp sting of envy for Joe's miracle beast. Anxious, Joe asks if anyone witnessed Blackhat's demise. The calm playboy simply shrugs, stating the villain got exactly what he deserved. He promises to erase the evidence, but Joe remains deeply on edge. The playboy clasps his shoulder warmly, urging him to breathe. He guarantees that once they clear this dungeon, Joe can enter any elite college he desires, with his full backing. Finally, they exit the portal alongside their wounded comrade. Outside, Zan swiftly reports the gate's chaotic events to the Fordero staff. With the dust settled, Sean prepares to depart. Joe shares a final farewell. As the rich kid speeds off in his private car. Joe takes the bus back to the city. Upon arriving, he steps out, feeling freezing and quite dizzy, likely from severe blood loss during the match. He decides he needs to recover with some iron-rich food. Walking down the street, Joe accidentally kicks a slumped figure on the ground, covered in blood. Initially shocked and fearing he found a corpse, Joe watches the mysterious man suddenly sit right up, reassure him. He claims he is still alive, just enduring some lingering pain. Joe tries to leave, but the elderly man invites him for a quick chat since their paths crossed. Joe rarely talks to strangers, but the old man insists on asking him a few questions. Even though Joe has absolutely no idea what they will discuss, he agrees to stay around. Anyway, the conversation takes a bizarre turn when the old man suddenly asks if Joe prefers women with large chests. Startled by this question, Joe briefly imagines both flat and heavy-chested women. He ultimately decides he prefers the former. The old man bursts into laughter, saying they share the exact same preference. He then explains that women with smaller chests are superior, and only foolish men prefer larger sizes. Hearing this, Joe awkwardly begins imagining how heavily endowed women would severely struggle to move properly during intense combat, especially if their physics were pushed to the absolute limit. The strange old man then drops another unexpected question. Does Joe prefer sweet and gentle girls or fiery and sassy women? Unsure of how to respond, our young hero simply wants to go home. To end this awkward chat immediately, he decides to choose the worst possible answer and reluctantly claims he prefers fiery and sassy women. The elder falls silent for a second, but suddenly his eyes sparkle with sheer admiration, agreeing that he loves sassy girls too. He explains that fierce women are far more interesting and cute, while gentle personalities are simply boring. He notes that he never expected our boy to have such excellent taste at his young age. Joe facepalms, thinking of his brutal stepsister who constantly to beat him up. He truly cannot understand why anyone would like a ruthless girl. The eccentric old man, however, happily states it is incredibly rare to meet a man with Joe's great taste. Joe then asks where the elder lives, hoping to escort him home. But the strange man completely ignores his question, instead pointing out that Joe cannot woo women if he lacks health. Since Joe is lacking energy, his good taste is useless. The elder then hands Joe a small notebook, revealing it holds a powerful chi spell to practice. Our young hero is stunned, to hear this. The old man claims this secret technique makes any woman totally obedient, no matter her attitude, so he must take it and master it completely. Joe feels very reluctant, explaining that he has already studied other chi spells and does not need this one. But the old man stresses that, while this true demonic record is not a top-tier chi spell, it severely outclasses the bitter meditation. Joe is absolutely terrified to realize the elder already knows he practices bitter meditation. He demands to know how on earth this random, shabby stranger learned his secret technique. The old man explains that while Joe looks incredibly pale right now, his body is built, tough as steel, a trait only forged through bitter meditation. He can easily tell Joe has not trained it for long. He warns him to quit immediately before ruining his core. Instead, he urges Joe to learn the true demonic records, boasting it is 100 times superior to his current art. He then quickly corrects himself, roaring that it is 1,000 times better with a maniacal laugh. Clueless, Joe simply thanks the elder and declines accepting such a priceless gift from a total stranger. Internally, Joe is also refusing because he never heard of any chi fighting skill named the true demonic records. He decides to walk away, unwilling to get scammed by an old coot. As our hero steps away, the elder remains seated. With a tone dripping with pure malice, he commands Joe to halt. At that single word, Joe's foot trembles violently. He suddenly cannot move a single inch. His face drains of color, and an unseen force violently drags him back to where he just stood. The old man, revealing his name as Jin Deoxin, declares that he despises hearing the word no. He adds that absolutely no one who ever denied him lived to tell the tale. That legendary name clicks in Joe's mind, and his eyes widen in pure shock. He recalls the dark history books. Born during the most chaotic era, when devastating dimensional storms ripped across Earth, Jin Deoxin was known as the most ruthless monster in human history. A sheer devil who drowned the Yaso Federation in blood, slaughtering 27 epic-level masters in a row. The elder then asks Joe if he has changed his mind, or if he still dares to reject the true demonic records. Terrified, Joe quickly accepts. He agrees instantly. The old man finds this sudden acceptance suspicious, curiously asking if the boy is merely bluffing or truly desires it. After all, he had sworn to never study the forbidden arts of the true demonic records. Though silent, he secretly admits he has zero intention of mastering them. He knows full well that learning such arts would make him a Federation target, just like this old man. Jin then decides to withhold the True demonic records, knowing Joe would never practice them anyway. Digging deep into his coat, Jin turns back to the boy. He reveals another key spell, claiming this one is incredibly fun. With a smirk, he pulls out a small notebook, asking if Joe dares to practice it. Joe stares awkwardly at the mysterious manual and, this time, he does not resist. The eccentric old man shoves the notes into Joe's hands, warning him not to refuse or face severe consequences. With that chilling threat, the old man Jin turns away, vanishing completely into the bustling city streets. Joe is left alone, consumed by endless questions. Standing in silence, he wonders if he is still being watched. He stares at the notebook in his hand, questioning why he even accepted this burden. Suddenly, a sneeze escapes him, and he sprints toward home. Along the way, he spots several officers conversing quietly. One asks if the energy signature was detected nearby. A red-haired woman confirms it. The commanding officer orders her to search the perimeter and stay alert. Joe glances over, instantly recognizing their official badges. It takes no time to realize they are Federation hounds. He suspects they are hunting Jin Deoxon, the old man he met just moments ago. But Joe keeps walking, deciding this dangerous affair is none of his business. He ignores it. Once, safely home, he immediately prepares a hot bath. Soaking in the water, he reflects on today's absolute madness. First, Sochan was betrayed and ambushed by a friend. Then, on his way back, Joe stumbled upon the legendary Tusa, devil, Jin Deoxon. All he truly wanted was to relax in his room and game in peace. He then glances at the key. Spell notes Jin left behind, questioning their true value. Exhausted, he finally collapses onto his bed for some much-needed rest. But as his consciousness slips into the dreamscape, horrifying monsters surround him from all sides. The nightmare is suffocating. He jolts awake, drenched in cold sweat. Trembling violently, he forces his shaky body up and vomits into the toilet. His head spins wildly from the Fortius, agonizing pain. He has absolutely no idea what is happening. Suddenly, his gaze falls upon the key spell notes the old man gave him. Eerie words flash across the page. Lost Immortal Sutra. He frantically grabs the ancient text, inspecting it from every possible angle, but finds nothing unusual. This leaves him wondering if he is simply anemic. As the dawn breaks, signaling a brand new day, he washes his face and stares at his reflection in the mirror. Feeling entirely refreshed and awake, he decides to kick off the day by gaming. He snatches his phone, pricks his finger, and drips his blood onto the screen. His avatar materializes instantly. Once inside the game, he is shocked to see the skeleton knight waiting. This proves that the terrifying monsters in the virtual world and reality are entirely separate. This is actually a massive relief, presenting him with a perfect opportunity to try again. The undead beast charges forward. But once again, Joe is brutally overpowered and struck down by the skeleton knight. After hours of relentless combat, he is exhausted. This boss is weaker than reality's version, but without Deoxon's aid, victory seems impossible. His only remaining path is to absolutely master his footwork and try again. Success could take days, and he fears the heavy blood toll it demands. Hoping to get a grip on his blood loss, he searches the web, but the mountain of information is staggering. So, falling back on a classic strategy, he keeps it simple, snacking on nuts for rapid energy. Besides that, his best bet is to simply not die in-game to prevent further blood loss. Still, he decides to stock up on rations before grinding away the coming days. Throwing on his jacket, he marches to the grocery store, grabbing every single healthy option to fuel his recovery. Back home, Joe dives into the endless grind once more. Throughout this brutal training arc, mountains of canned food pile up beside him. So much for eating healthy. Following countless grueling attempts, he finally matches the skeleton knight's pace. Catching it midair, he finds an opening and shatters its skull into dust. The kill drops a level 13 dimensional crystal for speed. Joe proudly claims his reward. But checking his stats, his speed points barely increase, stopping right at 9. He finds this odd, expecting a jump to 13. It seems he has hit the absolute cap for his current level. He sits mulling. He considers bitter meditation to reach the legendary level. Yet, as Jing Deoxon warned, this harsh path is Nothing compared to the invincible constitution. Burning to learn a higher Kwai fighting skill, he is tempted to test the spell Jing de Oxan provided. Suddenly, a striking realization hits his mind like lightning. He leaps to his desk, boots up his computer, and hastily plugs in the flash drive his stepsister dropped off, supposedly from his father. He doubts it holds a key spell, but the instant the system reads the drive, an ancient power reveals itself. A spell named Sun Shooting appears on the screen, leaving him utterly speechless. He pinches his arm, praying, this is not a dream. Both the Sun Shooting spell and the invincible constitution can push a warrior to the legendary level and beyond. Used for devastating attacks, the Sun Shooting spell is far less demanding than the invincible constitution. It seems to be a rare family, key spell from the Federation. He has no clue how his father got it. Could he have secured this Sun Shooting technique through the Ong family's network, spending a vast fortune? The Ong family is his step-family, but he quickly crushes this absurd theory. His dad would never go to such extremes for cultivation. Suddenly, a loud ring shatters the silence. He dials his father directly. On the other end, his dad is baffled by the late-night call. When the older man answers, our hero aggressively demands to know if he is still alive. Utterly confused, his father struggles to process it, cursing him as a foolish brat and telling him to knock on wood. Clearly, his angry dad is perfectly safe. Relieved it was just a wellness check, our hero's tone sharpens. He asks a vital question. His dad listens. He demands to know the origin of the Sun Shooting spell. A heavy silence falls before his father asks what Sun Shooting spell he means. This revelation hits like a shockwave. Frantic, he asks if his father told Ong Jing to deliver it. The man swiftly replies that he lacks interest in the martial path, so he does not have a reason to acquire such mystical arts. A wave of bitter disappointment washes over him, realizing his father never planned this glorious gift. Yet, the mystery deepens. Why did Ong Jing claim it came from his dad? This is tangling into a messy web. His father casually suggests it might be a personal gift from Ong Jae. He nods and abruptly hangs up. Though annoyed, his dad calms down, resolving to investigate who secretly gifted his son the Sun Shooting spell. Meanwhile, our protagonist stews in suspicion. The Ong family shows an unnatural interest in his dad. Nothing makes sense. Why did Jing challenge him at school? Why did he almost miss the vital exam due to a stepbrother, Inspector Ong? Now she hands over a fiercely guarded key fighting skill? The shadows deepen. He finally shakes off the paranoia, vowing to master the spell. Exhaustion claims him, and as he drifts into a deep sleep, his heart races violently. A suffocating dread fills the dark. From the abyss, those same demonic hands lunge for him again. As fingers lock around his throat, panic explodes. He violently jolts awake, totally drenched in sweat. Enduring this nightmare twice, he is certain Jing de Oxan is the mastermind, dragging himself to the sink to wash up. The old man's cryptic warnings echo in his mind. He glares at the weathered notebook, wondering if it could shatter these demonic nightmares. After deciphering the bizarre texts for several intense hours, he finally grasps the profound link between key energy and the human magnetic field. But before plunging deeper into this, his stomach roars with a ferocious hunger. The intense study session made him forget his mortal needs. Rising up, he devours some instant food, letting out a satisfying burp. But returning to the mystical texts, he completely forgets his place. Brushing off the mental fog, he dives back into the cryptic notes. Yet, the moment his eyes focus, the ink seems utterly alien. It feels like staring at the script for the very first time. Even with his average retention, this terrifying amnesia makes zero sense. Forcing his focus, he aggressively restarts from page 1. He ultimately reaches the CH spell and human magnetic field section. Suddenly, a random thought strikes. Did he switch off the kitchen lights? His concentration shatters. No matter how hard he tries, the memory stays hidden in the dark. Growling in frustration, he attacks the notebook again. But a chill strikes him. He forgot every single word. Taking a huge breath, he enters God mode, violently forcing his brain to extract data from the pages. Yet, despite his explosive willpower, his mind breaks again, erasing the sacred knowledge instantly. This phenomenon defies logic. 1 second of distraction completely obliterates his memory of the mystical text. Refusing to quit, his aura blazes. Returning to God mode, he begins writing the secrets into a journal. But as soon as pen touches paper, his memory completely fades. He tries photographing the notes, but that attempt fails entirely. The camera captures absolutely nothing. Finding this bizarre, he wonders if storing the book away will return everything to normal. Suddenly, his phone rings with an unknown caller tag. He answers the call, and it is Xuan on the line, asking if he has chosen his future university. It appears this absolute fool was so absorbed in his recent gaming sessions that he completely forgot today's result announcement. Sean then asks if he wants to attend the same academy. Our protagonist asks which academy he means. It seems Leon holds the number 1 spot, while our boy Joe ranks second. Considering their prestigious standings, the playboy proudly announces that they are heading to Sunset College. That name sparks Joe's memory. He heard that Sunset College recently discovered a new dimensional realm and a symbiotic pet, making it a top choice for enrollment. But that is when he begins to panic. He realizes Lu Yanggang is the Ong family's territory, and he certainly does not want to get tangled up with his siblings. Nonetheless, he dives right back into his intense gaming session. He faces off against a fierce, mosquito-like enemy. Gathering blazing fire in his fist, he strikes the pesky insect. However, the mosquito evades the attack and completely slices him in half. Frustration sets in. Even after defeating the Skeleton King, he still cannot defeat this tiny critter. He never expected to struggle this much against the silver-winged mosquito. The fact that it flies with such incredible speed makes it nearly impossible to catch. A sudden knock abruptly interrupts his thoughts. He quickly approaches the door to check the visitor. Upon opening it, he is surprised to find Leon standing outside. It is quite odd to see him arriving so early in the morning. However, this playboy does not even bother to ask for permission and simply walks right inside the house. Our boy finally asks Jan what he is doing here, mentioning that he still has not decided whether to attend Sunset College. Xuan then hands him a mysterious book, urging him to look. Joe flips the pages, asking what this is. The playboy then reveals it is a highly classified document from Sunset College, urging him to examine it closely. As our boy reviews the papers, the playboy points directly to a drawing and explains it is a creature from a dimensional realm in its visceral form. He proudly boasts that this rare creature recently emerged in the dimensional realm discovered by Sunset College. Our boy feels slightly creeped out by Zan's overenthusiasm and asks what makes it so special. The poor playboy immediately feels disappointed and a bit irritated by the question. He snaps at our boy, questioning if he even grasps the true significance of this kind of symbiotic pet. He explains that if Joe were to lose his heart in battle, this creature could instantly replace it, essentially granting him a second chance at life. Despite hearing all this, our boy remains completely clueless, which is really annoying Zan. Our boy actually understands the symbiotic pet's significance but is not exactly thrilled about being kept in the dark. Xuan reveals that the dimensional realm falls strictly under the jurisdiction of Sunset College, so only their academy members can access it. He adds that if this news were officially released, top students from around the world would rush to enroll, but the quota remains limited. Hearing this, our boy's interest is piqued, and he quickly agrees to attend Sunset College. Xuan then mentions circulating rumors that the Ong family will also be attending Sunset College. This alarming news rattles our boy's nerves. Zan is shocked by his fearful expression. He asks why our boy looks so terrified. Joe merely shrugs, claiming he is not scared at all. He confirms he will enroll today. The playboy tells him to pack his bags, as they are heading to Luoyang in his Lamborghini. A while later, the scene shifts to an FBI headquarters or something similar. 2 officers are still trying to track down Jin Deoxon. They pull up the security footage from Chengjun Road and spot our boy on the video. They start making guesses that Joe might be connected to Jin Dioxin. Meanwhile, on a speedy highway, as the city braces for a storm, Joe and Xuan are tearing through the roads in their Lamborghini. Joe is having a blast, but also worries about how this journey will consume significant time. They must carefully bypass all the dangerous areas near the dimensional realms. He also contemplates his current game challenge. The difficulty has practically doubled, and he figures that continuously playing might just blindly waste his blood. He glances over at Jan, who is lounging in the passenger seat, feeling drowsy. Joe starts to nod off but quickly jolts himself awake. He is sure that falling asleep in the car and experiencing sleep paralysis will lead to major trouble. Yet, he cannot understand why he feels dizzy and feverish. Then, he remembers the old man Jin. The elder had mentioned the critical importance of staying healthy to impress girls, and how low basic energy falls short. Joe knows physical limits matter. He vows to moderate his gaming, keeping his mortal shell in check. It is a vow I make daily, yet I always weave these epic tales for you. Suddenly, a cold sweat breaks as our hero recalls. That old man Jin. He swears if their paths cross again, he will unleash his full wrath upon that geezer. Ever since that fateful encounter, his spirit plummeted. He craves absolute revenge upon growing stronger. Suddenly, an anomaly pulses within. He retrieves the elder's mysterious notes. The inscribed title radiates arcane energy. Glancing at Zan, who remains lost in deep cultivation, Joe seizes this quiet moment. Boredom pushes him to decipher the texts. Upon opening it, golden runes manifest. Radiant energy spirals into As, his very core. Soon, the lost immortal sutra dissolves into nothingness. Awakening, he stares at his empty palms, bewildered by the phenomenon. Questioning reality, he wonders if it was an illusion. Shutting his eyes, his consciousness plunges into an arcane formation, only to be violently jolted awake. Absorbing the lost immortal sutra, forged immense internal power. Checking his status window, his basic chi art has evolved into the lost immortal sutra. Focusing his mind, brilliant light crackles across his palm. He realizes bitter meditation is sealed, utterly replaced by the supreme sutra. I must admit, this realm's power system remains heavily shrouded in mystery. He also discovers he shattered the 9-point mortal limit. Exhilarated by this newfound strength, Joe feels grateful toward Elder Jin. Upon entering a lavish estate, Zan promises to handle Sunset College's affairs. He invites Joe to rest here until term begins. Truly expected. Of wealthy heirs claiming mansions on a whim. Settling into the grand hall, Zan fetches refreshments. Joe questions this vast, servantless solitude, which Zan confirms. He tosses Joe a bizarre hybrid soda. Mid-drink, the silence is shattered by Zan's ringing phone. A brief, tense exchange follows. Hanging up, he urges Joe to rest, declaring he must depart on urgent business. Left alone, Joe roams the halls and casts off his jacket. He launches shadow strikes. He realizes the power punch demands heavy windup, making it flawed for a precise 1-inch strike. He remembers testing it on that silver-winged beast, yet the pest evaded it effortlessly. He desperately needs a superior technique. That is, when the skeleton palm skill echoes in his mind. Staring at his smoke-wreathed hand, he doubts its low-tier potential. Anticipating weak results, he still commits to relentless training. Instantly, a swing unleashes vicious wind blades across the room. The sheer speed shocks him. The skeleton palm synergizes perfectly with his 1-inch strike. Driven, he trains to absolute exhaustion. Despite being a mere rank 1 combat art, he discovers its massive chi consumption. Eager for real combat, he smears blood on his screen. His avatar instantly materializes, comically crushing a mutated ant upon landing. The beast, enraged by the insult, violently retaliates. Joe faces grave danger with his chi reserves, depleted from training. Miraculously evading death, he feels an unexpected surge. His chi regenerates via the lost immortal sutra. Blessed with enhanced agility, he seizes the moment, unleashing his fused 1-inch skeleton palm. A devastating direct hit triggers a massive blast, obliterating the monster. Suddenly, a golden system prompt alerts him of a breakthrough. Thok, skill hit level 10, evolving into the lethal ash palm. Awestruck, our hero notes it now. Drains 5 chi points, rivaling the sheer force of his power punch. Burning with battle lust, he seeks a worthy foe. Dismissing the weak ants, he sets his sights on a monstrous target, the Skeleton Knight. Selecting the dungeon, he manifests in Guida City. Then, a chilling fact dawns on him. Having slain the knight, he can only face the Skeleton King if he perishes, and he respawns reluctantly. letting the little skeletons defeat him. But after testing out his new skills, he finally masters the skeleton knight's attack patterns. He starts utilizing his high speed to dodge and strike the knight from behind. His ash palm technique lands, and that single blow shatters the skeleton's skull into dust. Later, a young lady steps into the mansion. Spotting him below, she calls out. Her stern voice jolts him awake. Startled, he sits up, asking her identity. The lady demands to know why he is alone and where Luan went. He mentions Luan is out. This makes her assume her brother is hanging around shady crowds again. She curses her brother for constantly dodging her whenever she tries to reach out. With that bitter remark, she turns to leave, leaving him utterly confused. Suddenly, she stops, grabs his hand, and declares he will be her stand-in. Without waiting for his permission, she drags him away against his will. The girl turns and reveals she is Luan's older sister. Since he is a friend of her brother, she needs a huge favor. Come to think of it, he remembers that Xuan is indeed his ally now, thanks to their mutual support. However, he would much rather avoid trouble and simply enjoy gaming in peace. As he mutters this, the girl demands to know what he said. He quickly brushes it off, claiming it is nothing. She orders him to dress properly. He agrees, and a short while later, they arrive at Sunset College's pet arena. The venue blazes with neon lights, resembling a cyberpunk city. Stepping off their heavy bike, they meet two waiting girls. The sister tells him he only needs to stand back and cheer. He agrees, instantly pulling out his console to start playing his favorite game. This deeply annoys her. As the crowd swells, onlookers express their absolute amazement at seeing Luan's sister arrive. They wonder where Luan is. A guy standing with his girlfriend smugly jokes that Xuan is too scared to show. The sister cuts him off, declaring she can crush them all alone. She glares at the girlfriend, addressing her as Sue, and coldly reminds her of their joint victory over the mutated ancient warhorse. She asks why Sue wants the symbiotic egg for herself. Feigning fear, Sue cowers behind her boyfriend and falsely claims she delivered the fatal blow. Thus, the egg is hers. Her boyfriend then steps up, confidently reminding the crowd of their pact. The victor of this duel takes the symbiotic egg. He warns her to hold back her accusations. The sister then glares at Gao Yang, suggesting he should simply surrender the egg without a fight. The victor is already obvious. By the way, our fierce girl's buddy name is Wei Yang. But Gao Yang's arrogance knows no bounds. Calling her a mere junior, he refuses to fight her directly, claiming it would be an unfair advantage. Smirking, he summons his champion who will take her down. Heavy footsteps echo through the arena. Wei Yang turns her gaze toward the sound as a giant emerges from the shadows. This sophomore is named Gudan, and he radiates a terrifying, intense aura. Wei Yang's previous confidence shatters into pure panic. Even our hero feels the vicious energy radiating from this beast. The surrounding crowd trembles in utter dread. As the two contenders face off, the bald giant provokes Wei Yang, daring her to strike. In response, her aura flares, fully prepared to crush him alone. Wei Yang's friend begs her not to fight this monster, suggesting they surrender the symbiotic egg instead. Intrigued, our hero asks about this Gudan. Terrified, the girl explains that he is the school's notorious devil. Rumor has it, he destroyed a senior on his very first day. With his interest piqued, our hero wonders if this giant is truly as legendary as the rumors claim. He also feels a twinge of concern for Wei Yang. Before they clash, Gao Yang mocks Wei Yang, asking if Gudan terrifies her. Provoked beyond reason, she launches a devastating town kick straight at the bald giant's head. But the giant merely tilts his head. The brutal strike lands on his shoulder, barely even tickling him. Wei Yang freezes in shock at his monstrous defense. She leaps into the air again, aiming another lethal kick at his skull. But Gudan stands completely still, barely reacting to the incoming assault. As Wei Yang's leg crashes down, the giant snags it with his bare hands. With blinding speed, he slams her into the ground, exploding a massive cloud of dust and smoke erupts. As the dust settles, she is crushed into the very earth. He strides forward, proving his overwhelming dominance. Blood streams down her face, showing her sheer exhaustion. Her battered body trembles, Yet, this cruel brute viciously kicks her away like garbage, sending her flying. Arrogantly, he mocks her weakness. Desperate, her friends beg her to abandon the symbiotic egg, as they surrender completely. A haughty blonde woman sneers at Wiang, spitting venomous insults. Since her allies have fallen, she demands Wing submit like an obedient hound before suffering ultimate devastation. Fighting the pain, Wiang forces her shattered body up. But before she speaks, the bald giant seizes her throat. He brutally crushes her into the dirt like a fragile doll. A massive shockwave tears through the battlefield. Basking in wicked glory, he stands tall. Suddenly, his fierce eyes widen. In pure shock, the unyielding Wei Wang rises once more, declaring this battle is far from over. Her fierce resolve ignites his fury. With bloodshot eyes, he charges with a deadly fist. But right before impact, the hero dashes in. Their fists clash, erupting in a deafening shockwave. Gan is utterly stunned by this stranger blocking his mighty blow, demanding a name. Joe swiftly introduces himself, stating he is a new freshman at Sunset College. Gong scoffs coldly, declaring that even as future classmates, they will fiercely punish him if he dares to play the righteous savior here. Wing warns the hero of the deadly danger, begging him to flee. But in a sudden flash, he lifts her over his shoulder with effortless ease, ordering her to rest and recover now. Looking closely, his towering presence feels incredibly massive compared to his early days. His growth from Chapter 1 is absolute madness. Ignoring her stubborn protests entirely, he safely delivers her to her allies. The girls breathe sighs of immense relief. Meanwhile, Wing watches with heavy doubt, fearing the bald warrior's monstrous strength. Stepping up to face his foe, the hero unleashes true shonen protagonist aura, stating that a lethal deathmatch is completely unnecessary. The brute snarls, demanding a better way to settle their bloody clash. The hero suggests keeping it PG-13. He offers a single strike. If Baldy takes less than 3 steps back, the hero will surrender completely. Insulted by this arrogant challenge, Gan erupts with a terrifying aura. He roars at the boy to strike, refusing to waste time. Unshaken, Shia warns the giant to brace himself against the incoming devastation. Watching closely, Gang finds this bold wager absolutely thrilling. The blonde woman panicked, trembling at the sheer risk of Gan losing ground. Stepping back 3 times means absolute defeat. But her confident boyfriend swiftly shuts down her fear, explaining Gan's ultimate defense. His supreme Chua fighting skill is the lethal porcupine armor, forged from needle porcupine crystals. It grants him steel-like invincibility and a brutally devastating counterattack reflection, reaching the supreme 9th rank. The last fool who tested this absolute defense lost an entire arm. The hero's cocky gamble looks like a deadly mistake. The absolute truth will unfold instantly. Gathering explosive momentum, the hero clenches his fist. His glove vaporizes from the sheer energy. A devastating blow strikes the giant's gut. Pure agony twists his face as the crushing impact multiplies, detonating into a massive explosion. The giant is violently blasted far beyond the 3-step mark. Wei Wang watches in utter disbelief. Baldy suffers a totally humiliating and crushing defeat. The strike was so vicious, the hero's fist drips with fresh blood. Enraged, the blonde woman screams, refusing to accept this crushing reality. She yells that the outsider's victory is completely invalid. Her dignified boyfriend instantly silences her with a harsh slap, punishing her pathetic whining. He admits total defeat, honoring his proud warrior's word without hesitation. Crossing paths with the hero, he promises a future rematch, eagerly awaiting their next fierce encounter. The defeated trio retreats. The rescued girls instantly swarm their savior, showering him with endless admiration and breathless praise. Astonished by his overwhelming power, they swoon over his heroic display. Suddenly, Wing urgently calls out, pointing at his bloodied fist. He simply shrugs off the brutal damage, smiling calmly as her bleeding halts. He gently reminds the badly injured girl that she must seek the infirmary immediately. She nods in agreement, and our hero casually hoists her over his shoulder like a rag doll. A warm smile crosses her face, grateful her brother found such a loyal comrade. Upon returning to the mansion, frustration sets in as he realizes how much time has passed without logging into his game. He eagerly prepares to enter his digital sanctuary, but fate intervenes just as he logs in. Xuan makes a grand, dramatic entrance, leaving our hero convinced that the entire universe is conspiring against his gaming time. Xuan strides over, casually claps his shoulder, and asks if he recalls that mysterious dimensional realm, the very domain where that terrifying visceral beast was discovered. He extends a bold invitation, asking Joe to venture into that dangerous territory. Suspicious, our hero points out their lack of clearance, as the academy term has not yet commenced. Xuan flashes an arrogant smirk, boasting that bypassing security is mere child's play. Yet, our hero remains entirely absorbed in his digital stats, completely tuning out Xuan's grand speech. The blue-haired warrior snaps in pure annoyance at the silence. Our hero feigns attention, which only fuels Xuan's blazing irritation. Turning his back, he orders our hero to rest, warning of their departure. At first light, our hero nods blankly, his eyes still hopelessly locked onto his glowing screen. Suddenly, he calls out to Xuan. As the blue-haired fighter turns, he asks how to awaken, a legendary tier symbiotic egg. Caught off guard by the sheer audacity, Xuan demands to know if he means the legendary skeleton knight. He sternly warns against such suicidal foolishness, explaining that the process requires a massive 12 points of ki. The blue-haired warrior reveals that without sufficient energy, the egg will ruthlessly devour the master's flesh and vitality, leaving them permanently crippled or worse. Sensing a glimmer of hope, our hero presses on, asking if any miraculous exceptions exist to this deadly rule. Xuan proudly declares himself the ultimate exception, boasting that his invincible constitution provides unmatched resilience. It absorbs the heavy life force drain, allowing him to tame legendary beasts despite his lower rank. However, Xuan gravely admits the colossal ki drain remains dangerously overwhelming to sustain. He urges our hero to abandon this mad ambition, unless he is fully prepared to embrace death. Alone in his quarters, our hero realizes in-game death means nothing, but facing this terrifying reality is far more perilous. A spark of genius strikes him. Since his device bridges reality and the dungeon, he captures an image of the legendary egg. The relic instantly dematerializes from his grasp as the system secures it within his digital vault. Two fateful options now materialize before him: hatch or accept a mysterious fusion. Driven by sheer curiosity, he boldly selects the unknown fusion path. Instantly, a new system prompt ignites, confirming the mutated immense strength. Ant is ready with a 47% fusion compatibility. Without a shred of hesitation, he locks in his choice, and the miraculous evolutionary process violently begins. Knowing his current ki reserves are far too weak to awaken the mighty skeleton knight directly, he gambles everything to witness how the mutant ant will transform upon devouring the legendary essence. As the dazzling evolution concludes, he nervously scans the newly forged combat statistics. To his absolute shock, the beast remains at the mortal tier despite consuming the mythical egg. However, the creature has awakened a devastating innate skill. Skeleton Pierce Attack Rank 10. Praying this newfound power can crush the silver-winged mosquito, he dives back into the digital battlefield. As the winged nightmare descends, he summons his skeletal ant, ordering an immediate counterattack. The beast unleashes its piercing technique, and deadly bone spikes erupt fiercely from the earth, hunting the airborne terror. But despite the relentless storm of jagged blades, the monstrous insect violently evades them all, plunging directly toward our hero's exposed position. Staring death in the face, he channels a devastating punch, but his fist only shatters the empty ground. In a blinding flash, his avatar is mercilessly cleaved in two. Suffering yet another crushing defeat, he stares at the respawn screen, endlessly analyzing the mosquito's overpowered aerial strike. As the next morning breaks, a heavy wave of anxiety washes over him regarding their transport, questioning if they are they really riding it? His friend flashes a confident smirk. He guarantees they absolutely will. He explains that it is a legendary tier jade white tiger. He endured agonizing trials to hatch this beast. As they both mount the mighty tiger, it explodes forward. The crushing speed makes our hero bleed. He grimly thinks a simple car ride would have been far more bearable. Upon reaching the city, Xuan swipes his access card. A guard quickly waves them inside. They step into a deep elevator, descending into a massive subterranean facility. It is here. They discover Luoyang was once the grand capital of 13 nations. After the dimensional storm wreaked havoc, the Daimari entire region collapsed. It now connects to a terrifying subterranean realm. This cursed domain is known as the Underground Buddha City. When they finally hit the depths and the heavy doors open, they are met with a chaotic sight. Swarms of people roam around like it is a mere tourist trap. Merchants busily set up stalls, eagerly peddling their wares. Our hero questions if this is truly a dimensional realm. It is difficult to believe students would casually trade here. Xuan explains, the military purged the outer perimeter to keep civilians safe near the gates. However, their merchandise is utterly mediocre. With a proud smirk, he boasts that he possesses an elite military exploration map. Joe remains unfazed. He knows too well that there is nothing this wealthy playboy cannot buy. As they venture deeper, Xuan reveals the existence of a hidden, subterranean lotus pond. The legendary Buddha heart lotus blooms there. Suddenly, Joe spots that mysterious palm mark. He quickly snaps a picture. A strange app materializes on his screen. This confirms the area is another deadly dungeon within the game. He barks at our hero to stop snapping photos and hurry up. The duo presses forward, and, after a tense trek, they stumble upon a breathtaking spectacle. A colossal pond brimming with mystical lotus flowers. Shen declares these are the Buddha heart lotuses. Shockingly, a hidden creature exists whose symbiotic form mimics the very core of the lotus. Our hero wonders why these plants cannot grow safely near the shore, making it simple to harvest. Why not just swim across and claim a treasure for themselves? Zen, coldly and bluntly, reveals the horrifying truth. That water is highly corrosive acid. Anyone foolish enough to wade in will melt into a bare skeleton. It is an absolute death zone. Suddenly, an intruder crashes the scene. The newcomer flaunts majestic angelic wings. Hovering arrogantly in midair, he interrupts our duo. He boasts that the only possible way to reach those flowers is by taking flight over the toxic, acid-filled lake. Instantly, the deceptively peaceful lotuses react to the hostile threat. The fragile petals morph into razor-sharp projectiles. They launch violently at the airborne warrior. But the winged man reacts with lightning speed. Summoning his blade, he clashes head-on. With a devastating slash, he strikes down the flower. Crimson petals rain from the sky like blood. Our hero is awestruck by this raw might. Xuan calmly notes this is merely expected. The legendary Luo family is deeply revered for their unmatched, exceptional sword mastery. He adds that this winged youth, known as Luo Xuan, is not even their strongest. Yet, our wealthy playboy cannot pull his gaze from those glorious wings. Consumed by pure envy, he silently dreams himself of wielding a flying symbiotic beast. He then asks our hero if they should retreat and explore somewhere else. Other dimensional monsters could be lurking nearby. He gravely points out the eerie nature of this strange sector. The military classified it as an unknown danger zone. Our hero curiously questions what defines this as hazardous. Xuan flashes his dark screen. It reveals the staggering death toll of elite soldiers who perished exploring here. They died not in combat, but from sudden, inexplicable organ failure. For their own survival, Xuan advises extreme caution. As they prepare to leave, the toxic swamp violently erupts. A colossal lotus surges upwards, grotesquely adorned with Buddha faces across its surface. The ultimate threat they feared has awakened. The monstrous Buddha lotus flower unleashes its aura, craving battle. The airborne warrior channels his power, transforming one wing into a spectral pony. But the sinister flower shows no mercy. It blasts a colossal crimson beam, instantly reducing the pony to bone. The once arrogant winged fighter plummets toward the bubbling acid. Our hero screams his name. Xuan coldly predicts the man is dead as soon as he hits the surface. Miraculously, Luo lands firmly on a lotus leaf, vaulting away from the deadly swamp. Shan realizes this warrior's aura technique relies on supreme lightness and agility. However, he remains trapped quite far from the safe shore. Shan turns, demanding to know what our hero is plotting. Shockingly, our boy thrusts his symbiotic pet gauntlet straight into the corrosive water. Amazingly, the acid cannot dissolve his weapon. It solely devours flesh. His strategy locked in. Our boy pulls his hand from the toxic water. He drops his symbiotic pet straight into the deadly acid. Standing ready. Sean demands to know his plan. Joe calmly replies he is stepping in to save the man trapped in the swamp. Meanwhile, Luo leaps desperately to dodge the burning acid. But with no solid ground left to step on, his only remaining choice is the deadly swamp itself. To make matters worse, the Buddha Lotus fires another devastating laser beam straight at him. Just as it looks like Luo is completely finished, the swamp waters violently bubble. Our boy's skeleton ant bursts forth. Luo is taken aback by this sudden creature's appearance. The ant moves like lightning through the air, completely intercepting the deadly laser beam and absorbing the strike directly. Being purely skeletal, the ant easily shrugs off both the acid and the lasers. Luo finally spots a secure platform to land on. It is, of course, the sturdy back of Joe's ant. Our boy immediately commands his skeletal beast to fall back. The ant's eyes shimmer with power as it swiftly marches back toward the safety of the shore. The Buddha Lotus flower relentlessly fires its lasers, but the vicious attacks deal absolutely zero damage. The skeleton ant violently picks up speed, eventually crashing onto the shoreline. Standing with an imposing aura, our boy calmly watches as Luo Han hops off the ant's back. The moment his feet hit solid ground, he asks for his savior's name. Joe Wen formally introduces himself. Luo deeply thanks him for the rescue, but Joe casually brushes it off as nothing. However, Luo fiercely insists on proving his overwhelming gratitude, vowing to repay our boy for today's life-saving favor. Meanwhile, Xuan is left completely and utterly stunned by the skeleton ant. He urgently demands to know what this pet is. Ju simply states it is a skeleton ant. Xuan is massively impressed, and he is further amazed that the creature is totally immune to the acid. It tanked the deadly flower strikes like an absolute champion. He urges our boy to send the ant back into the swamp to slaughter the monster. He is absolutely certain the mutated flower drops epic loot, making this deadly challenge totally worth the risk. But our boy deeply suspects this is no ordinary mutated Buddha Heart Lotus. He senses it might actually be a legendary tier creature. Since this is grim reality, he refuses to let his skeleton ant be destroyed. Joe swiftly recalls his beast. Zan mocks his sudden fear, loudly pointing out, it is merely a symbiotic pet. Slaying the monster could yield priceless treasures. But my guy firmly stands his ground, making it crystal clear he will not gamble his ant's life away. With that final word, he turns and walks off. Once they return to their mansion, the wealthy playboy is visibly crushed. He is deeply frustrated about wasting too rare entry passes without claiming worthwhile loot. He furiously worries that by tomorrow, the world will hear about the giant. Buddha, Heart, Lotus Flower, and rival hunters will steal their prize. Gripping his phone tightly, Zoe tells his companion he is retreating to his room. He requests the Buddha City map, knowing it might prove vital for survival soon. Xuan tosses over the duck map, and Joe gladly retreats into isolation, leaving the rich playboy completely baffled by his sudden good mood. Once inside his room, he smears his phone screen with fresh blood. The Lotus Flower app violently boots up. He instantly spawns inside the underground Buddha City dungeon. He is shocked to find an endless horde of Buddha Heart Lotus flowers completely carpeting the dark waters toward the Buddha shore. Unlike in the waking world, however, the colossal giant lotus is nowhere in sight. Shaking off his bitter disappointment, he charges forward to slaughter the dungeon's vicious monsters. Meanwhile, back in cruel reality, the legendary Buddha Heart Lotus flower fully awakens once more. Rival players, fueled by epic tales from their ally Luan, are now desperately eager to crush the mystical flower. The elite lackeys are thoroughly awestruck as their arrogant boss finally summons his absolute top-tier, legendary-grade creature, a majestic golden-eyed hawk. Aiming to destroy the flower, the cocky boss dramatically adjusts his glasses and commands his golden eagle to strike the Buddha Heart Lotus flower. Back in the digital realm, Joe Wen dodges lethal lasers with flawless martial movements, slicing down lotus flowers left and right. His skeleton ant charges in, delivering a devastating final strike to a demonic flower. It instantly shatters, dropping a glowing crystal. After endlessly slaughtering foes, he finally secures a truly valuable prize. He closely inspects the skill crystal, He realizes he knows virtually nothing about the Buddha Heart Lotus's ultimate combat arts. Given the deadly lotus flower's fighting style of firing hidden projectiles, he boldly resolves to instantly absorb the fire crystal's core. As the energy merges with his soul, he feels the real-world impact. This soothing, warm sensation is completely different from the agonizing pain of his power punch absorption. This surging warmth signals the birth of a terrifying new power. He rapidly calculates how this divine force will multiply his combat abilities. Joe Wen's tense heart completely relaxes, feeling touched by pure heavenly waters. Suddenly, the system blares a notification. New skill acquired, meditation rank 7. It is a strength-based skill he never expected. Curious about its true power, he fiercely concentrates. A blazing blue aura surrounds his entire body from all directions. However, after a brief moment, utter disappointment sets in. The only sensation he feels is a warm comfort washes over him. The skill shows no immediate power. He thinks of his friend Lean, and realizes even he might not fully grasp the chi fighting skill of the Buddha Heart Lotus. This is likely why he never mentioned it in game. Joe Wen is caught off guard by a sudden laser strike, but manages to block it just in time. Thrill surges through him as he spots a Buddha Heart Lotus monster in the game. Just as he hoped, he eagerly commands his skeleton ant to strike. The skeleton ant leaps into action, while the Buddha Heart Lotus counters with red laser blasts. These strikes barely scratch the ant. As the flower retreats into the water, Joe Wen grins. Thinking the creature is running scared, he orders his ant to finish it off. Just as the ant strikes, the flower's massive jaw snaps open. Filled with sharp teeth, it swallows the ant whole. Joe Wen's smile vanishes, his confidence shattering. He realizes the beast had a deadly trick hidden away. Frustration washes over him, unable to do much or even approach the deadly swamp area. Without his skeleton ant, he heads to the restricted zone Lean mentioned. Even if he dies in battle, he figures it will not be a huge deal. He wanted to die and respawn anyway. With that grim thought in mind, he immediately starts walking into the restricted area. Inside, he discovers a ruined landscape with flowing water and ancient Buddha statues. Climbing the desolate stairs, he finds the atmosphere deeply unsettling. He has not met a single monster on his journey here. Suddenly, a realization strikes him. The true restricted zone lies just ahead. This area turns out to be a small Buddhist temple. However, he questions that description. The sheer scale of the structure does not look small at all. He takes a few steps, but instantly, the game is over. Deep confusion washes over him in that silent moment, since he did not even process his own death. He smears his screen with blood again and sprints into the temple. But once more, his avatar's body violently twists. Before he can react, the game ends again. This time, he notices that upon the truck, the character's death, the internal organs twist unnaturally. He recalls Luan's warning about the fallen soldiers. There were 0 visible injuries, yet everyone inside suffered fatal organ failure. It is completely clear why the military failed to handle this threat. After countless brutal defeats, he tosses his phone aside and chooses to sleep. Next day finally dawns, opening with the sound of hearty laughter. It seems Luan is incredibly amused to hear the recent news. Once word of the Buddha Heart Lotus spread, impatient challengers rushed in, only getting completely crushed by the terrifying monster. Joe Wen steps out, asking what is so funny today. Bluehead explains that last night, a senior used his legendary golden-eyed hawk to strike the Buddha Heart Lotus from the sky. Every single feather on the majestic hawk burned to ashes. He finds their miserable failure hilarious. Joe Wen calmly reminds him that if they had continued fighting it, they would be the ones getting laughed at now. Bluehead then mentions that the news has exploded across the college forum. Now, students from various grades will likely attempt to hunt down the giant lotus. Joe Wen questions why the military has not eliminated the beast. Suen responds that, despite the lotus's immense power, numerous elites within the military and college are fully capable of dealing with it. He explains that their current silence means they will not intervene in this battle. According to strict Federation regulations, military intervention is strictly required only if a monster exceeds a certain danger level. Barring special events, this serves as a trial. It gives the younger generation a great chance to prove themselves and secure valuable resources. Suddenly, a familiar figure appears at the door, knocking gently. Shen quickly responds, shouting that he is coming. Meanwhile, Joe Wen receives a sudden call from his father. His father asks if he is currently in Liang. Joe Wen confirms his location, asking if something is wrong. The old man warmly explains that his stepmother, Lon, wishes to see him for dinner. Joe Wen immediately scrambles, making awkward excuses to completely avoid meeting his glamorous stepmother. He desperately tries to dodge this sudden family encounter. However, right at that moment, Xuan calls out to Joe Wen. A mysterious visitor is waiting at the door, asking to meet him. As Joe Wen walks toward the entrance, his father mentions that Ong Jing volunteered to pick him up and is on her way. The timing strikes him like lightning. Xuan just announced a visitor waiting right on their doorstep. He gets a terrible sinking feeling. His worst fears are confirmed when he locks eyes with his striking stepsister. Sheni is absolutely stunned. He realizes Joe Wen is tied to the prominent Ong family, his father married to Uang Lan. Joe Wen quickly shuts it down, reminding his friend he has no ties to the Ong family. It is strictly his father's marriage. Lan Ongjing scoffs at his remark. She pouts briefly before snapping that the driver is already waiting outside, so they need to leave. Left with no choice, our hero rolls with it and facepalms. Despite his desperate attempts to avoid the Ong family, fate keeps binding him closer. He tells Jan he is heading out. His friend simply flashes an okay sign. With that, our protagonist follows his stepsister out. Suddenly, she asks if he practiced the sun shooting spell. Our hero reminds her their father denied giving him that technique. Visibly flustered, she sternly demands to father know if he thinks she tried to trick him with a random skill. Then, showing her classic tsundere style, she snaps that she is glad he ignored it. She claims she only gave it, hoping to hurt him with it. Our boy is totally baffled. He cannot figure out why she is so furious at him. Regardless, the spell's authenticity means nothing. Having mastered the Lost Immortal Sutra, he cannot learn other core arts anyway. She orders him into the car. Inside, the luxurious ride. A hidden figure snaps photos of our boy. These agents seem to be FBI, and they have already built a full profile on him. The assistant briefs her senior. Joe graduated from Gua High School, ranked second overall, and showed absolute brilliance. He now resides in Liang, explaining why they lost his trail in Guida province. The senior notes our boy seems disconnected from Jingdi, Oxan. However, the assistant reveals a shocking twist. Zhou Ling Feng, his father, is the man who just married an Ong family widow. This revelation stuns the senior, demanding to know what she means. He finds it absurd that Yuang Lan would desire someone like Zhou Ling Feng. He wonders if Zhou holds ties to the Outlanders. The assistant notes that although Zhou Ling Feng reached the legendary level years ago, he is too old for the Outlanders. Perhaps Uang Lan only wants him because he is a kept man. The senior fiercely objects, stating Uang Lan could never be that kind of woman. When the Ong family master died, total chaos erupted. Powerful elites coveted their wealth. Her son, and Tianzuo, was only 13. Why would a brilliant strategist like Uang Lan marry an incompetent fool? Regardless, he orders her to bring Joe Wen in first. She agrees. He insists the Ong family must remain completely in the dark. Later, at a grand mansion, our anxious hero steps out. The breathtaking luxury stuns him. He finally meets his father and his new stepmother. She greets him with absolute warmth, claiming she had eagerly awaited this day. At the dining table, a feast appears. His stepmother urges everyone to eat, offering him some lobster. This happens to be Jing's ultimate favorite. Jing nods eagerly, drooling over the exquisite seafood. But her mother shatters her hopes, insisting their guest Joe Wen must eat first. Naturally, Jing is furious, watching her beloved food handed to our eccentric MC. She shoots him absolute death glares. The sheer intensity of her wrath practically scorches him. However, the mother gently tells him to ignore Jing. She whispers that this is her secret revenge for Jing bullying him earlier. Anxiously, our boy stuffs the premium lobster into his mouth. He can easily tell the fancy food is quite tasty, yet her hostility baffles him. Why is she glaring at him like that? He simply cannot bidders. Shake how utterly different she feels from Jing. The tense evening passes. As our hero prepares to leave, his stepmother invites him to move in and live as a happy family. He instantly declines, claiming he must live on campus and currently stays with a friend. Deep down, however, he is terrified of his stepsister Jing. Living there would mean certain death. Just then, his stepmother offers him a mysterious card. Intrigued, our boy asks about its purpose. She warmly explains that it is a single dorm keycard for Sunset College. His father had mentioned his desire to Kambadana, live alone. She prepared this surprise gift without asking, hoping he would accept. This looks like the perfect sanctuary for uninterrupted gaming sessions. Thrilled, he gratefully accepts the keycard, wondering how his dad knew. He respectfully thanks her, calling her madam, but she takes it the wrong way. Touching her hair, she asks if she looks that old, saying he can call her anything. He learns the hard way that every woman despises comments about their age. He heads back to his friend's mansion. It is dead silent inside, meaning Luan is out again. This is excellent news for him. Fueled by that hearty dinner, he is ready to game without interruptions. He dives back in, fighting fiercely to clear the ant nest in the dungeon. Upon victory, he scores another symbiotic egg. Checking the stats, he sees it as a mutated immense strength ant. This grants him an innate skill, Power Punch rank 2. He frowns, noticing its attributes are far worse than the last. 1. Suddenly, a stinging winged mosquito lunges at him. He ducks just in time to evade the quarter strike. Annoyed by this cowardly ambush, he prepares to strike back, but the beast charges at him, full throttle. He swiftly dodges the foul creature again, maintaining absolute vigilance. He knows one wrong move means instant death. The terrifying mosquito dives at him full speed, and he seizes the moment, sprinting straight toward the deadly pest. As the monster strikes, he blocks it head-on. He narrowly escapes with only a grazed cheek. Just as the creature gains speed, it vanishes into thin air. He readies a fist, fueled by his immense strength ant, Gauntlet. Unable to track the mosquito by sight, he closes his eyes, sensing the monster's presence behind him. With a primed fist, he lands a devastating blow, sending the beast tumbling. He leaps forward, unleashing his next move, Ash Palm. Energy surges, erupting into a massive blast. Even after that brutal strike, the mosquito clings to life. He jumps again, unleashing an overwhelming barrage of powerful punches. Finally, the winged horror falls. As the defeated mosquito begins to fade away, it drops a precious symbiotic egg. His face lights up with sheer triumph. Now he faces two choices: hatch the Faust egg or fuse it with the mutated immense strength ant's egg. With a fusion rate of mere 20%, he is clearly unhappy with the system's low odds. Given that his previous opponent was merely an ant, the rate should not be this low compared to the skeleton knight's egg. He fears the symbiotic egg will be lost if hatching fails. Swallowing his dread, he decides to risk it all. Despite his doubts, he hits yes. Suddenly, an empty void opens, violently draining his ki. His heart races as sinister dark red energy envelops him in a chilling sensation. It feels as if his back is being shredded by razor-sharp fangs. As hatching concludes, he is brought to tears, violently coughing up blood. It seems evident that he has sprouted wings on his back, explaining the agonizing pain. He feels dangerously dizzy, not only from massive blood loss during the brutal mosquito fight, but also from the terrifying real-world backlash that pushed his limits. Exhaustion finally conquers him, and he collapses. His phone rings in the background, but glowing system texts soon hover around him, pulling his mind back to consciousness. Groggy, he rises, glad. The real-world pain is milder than the game's torture. Otherwise, he might have died. He wipes blood on his screen to check his status, dreading a catastrophic hatching failure. Yet, to his absolute and relief, the egg hatched successfully. Eager to test his new power, he summons his avatar. When the silver-winged mosquito finally materializes, the sight leaves him utterly devastated. It is nothing but a pathetic tiny mosquito. His shocked scream echoes through the mansion. Staring at the bug, he is crushed by the softing, pathetic result. He checks the stats. This creature is a silver-winged mosquito larva, officially, ranked as a legendary pet. Clueless about what a larvae entails, he brushes it off, noticing that the attributes are shockingly weak for a legend, especially considering its deadly ferocity when it tried to slaughter him. Despite the weak stats, it looks strangely cute. Suddenly, the system beeps, announcing the silver-winged mosquito is starving. He needs to feed it immediately. Completely clueless about a mosquito's diet, he hits the yes button to feed it. Instantly, a system window pops up. It demands a sacrifice, the mutated skeleton ant, or the mutated immense strength ant. He is infuriated by this tiny beast's arrogant appetite. He absolutely refuses to sacrifice any appetite of his hard-earned symbiotic pets. He curses the creator of this useless mosquito that refuses to eat. Standard game monsters. Meanwhile, the tiny creature, cute as ever, drools eagerly, waiting for, driven by a ravenous hunger to devour everything, and with zero options left, he reluctantly proceeds to sacrifice the mutated immense strength ant's symbiotic egg. The moment he hits the button, pure energy swirls around the tiny beast, finally curing its endless appetite. After feeding it, he decides to check out the 44 creature's symbiotic form, since this infant state will not be much help in a real battle. As the mosquito triggers its symbiotic state, wings erupt behind his avatar. Thrilled, he takes to the skies to test his newfound flight. The speed is absolutely exhilarating, sending a surge of immense power through his veins. These wings grant stunning agility, though they cannot lift him high. He realizes he can maneuver swiftly at lower altitudes, staying just a few meters off the ground. Still, since he can finally fly, it seems useless to keep hunting mere ants. He decides to dive deeper into the cavern depths, ready to explore whatever lies ahead. As he ventures forward, endless swarms of ants emerge, and the dark path grows narrower, and ABT3, narrower. Vicious monsters crawl everywhere. Gazing down at this nightmare from a bird's-eye view, he sees an ocean of countless beasts, totally unsure how to fight them all. Then, he remembers his wings, so he figures he can just dash over their heads unharmed. Unfortunately, this naive plan completely fails to work as expected. The vile ants fuse into a massive hand, violently lashing out and swarming his entire body from all sides. Once, trapped inside this deadly swarm, blinding light erupts from the horde. Unleashing his ash palm skill, he absolutely obliterates the wretched ants surrounding him, instantly clearing the area. The devastating impact actually punches a massive hole straight through the earth. He plummets into a dark abyss holding nothing but a lone boulder. Just as he feels safe, he spots a shadow near the rock. He quickly realizes he has crashed into a massive ant nest, and now those monsters are charging straight for him. Overrun by the endless flying insects, his brave avatar is brutally crushed, and his real body feels the painful backlash. Sadly, he cannot explore the dungeon further, as his silver-winged mosquito needs time to recover before flying again. Suddenly, intense hunger pangs strike, so he checks his fridge, only to find it completely barren. Having no other choice, he heads out to grab some quick food. Stepping into the city streets, we spot a dark car tailing his every move. Inside, an agent reports the target has left home and hit the main street. They ask if they should strike now. A woman named Lisa, calmly applying her lipstick, coldly tells her junior that it is way too crowded. Since Chia ordered them to stay undercover, she calmly reassures the team she will handle the situation. As our hero casually strolls down the path, the agent quickly blocks his route, ensuring her disguise looks absolutely stunning. She is totally determined to charm his soul the second they lock eyes. As he keeps walking, completely unaware of the incoming trap, she hides behind a wall, waiting to strike. At the perfect moment, she steps out, pretending to trip and fall heavily to the ground. Without missing a beat, she unleashes fake tears and cries out to the handsome hero, begging for help. But our main character, acting like an absolute boss, simply walks right past without sparing her ADI. Single glance. This cold rejection shatters her pride. What infuriates her most is that this arrogant brat totally ignored her. Divine beauty. Furious, she chases him, ready to unleash her ultimate trump card as a last resort. Meanwhile, our hero is deep in thought, realizing how effortlessly flying experts can invade the lotus pond. However, figuring out how to conquer the blood-striped Buddha heart, Lotus remains a huge headache. Suddenly, the angry girl violently grabs his arm, demanding why he walks so fast. Joe, completely baffled, bluntly asks who she is. She claims she is lost, hurt, and injured from her fall, begging for some help. Unfazed, Joe instantly whips out his phone and dials 911, declaring that rescue is on the way. Panicking, she demands he drop the phone and personally escort her home instead. Joe remains fiercely blunt, stating he is getting dinner and has zero time for her nonsense. Pure frustration consumes the killer with every passing second. Her ego shattered, she hits her breaking point. Dropping her innocent act, she unleashes her aura and lunges, ready to knock him out and drag him back by pure force. A violent explosion erupts from their sudden clash. As the smoke clears, the woman stands alone, while our hero swiftly leaps high atop a nearby street sign. Glaring down, he instantly connects the dots. If his memory serves right, she is one of those deadly federal agents hunting Jing Deoxan that fateful night. Clearly, she underestimated him, facing an agility far beyond her predictions. Turning serious, she summons fire. Meanwhile, he calls 911, reporting he is being attacked. Seeing this, the agent fiercely grits her teeth. If cops catch her fighting, her true identity will be risking exposure. She refuses to draw unwanted attention. Reluctantly, she turns to leave, telling him she will spare him this once. With that, she vanishes from sight. The boy exhales a heavy sigh of relief and leaps back down. He remains deeply puzzled. Why is the Federation hunting him when he is completely innocent? As he ponders this, a sudden realization strikes. They might consider him Jing Daoxan's accomplice. He quickly calls his trusted friend, Li Xuan. Answering the call, Li sounds genuinely shocked and thrilled to see that the boy is calling of his own free will. Skipping the small talk, the boy urgently demands Xuan find a secure, private location. He has a critical secret to share. After explaining the dire situation, Xuan listens in absolute disbelief, stunned to hear about his encounter with Jing Deoxan. Yet, Xuan confesses his burning jealousy, wishing he could also cross paths with someone as legendary as Jing Deoxan. The boy clearly made the right choice, keeping the lost immortal sutra a secret. Otherwise, his friend would have lost his mind with excitement. Pushing forward, Xuan explains that based on the description provided, he is absolutely certain the hyenas are hunting him. He warns that the hyenas are a highly classified federal strike force. They handle the dark operations the government refuses to touch. He further details that these hyenas are utterly ruthless, willing to cross any line to achieve their mission, regardless of the devastating fallout. They are infamous throughout the Federation, earning their bloodthirsty namesake. Surviving this pack of hyenas is going to be a grueling battle. The boy then asks if Xuan can force his early college admission. He reasons that while the hyenas and the created Special Inspection Unit possess massive authority, they cannot openly break federal law. Therefore, their shadows cannot easily reach the grounds of Sunset College. Xuan agrees it is a brilliant strategy, teasingly reminding the boy that Luan is Ang family territory. Under the protection of the Ang family, no force on earth would dare touch him. However, the boy firmly refuses to discuss the Ang family. He coldly tells his friend to keep that forbidden subject entirely off the table. Dropping the joke, Xuan confidently promises to secure his early admission into the academy without delay. Ending the transmission, the boy grits his teeth. Boiling frustration surges within him over this sudden, unprovoked danger. Escaping this deadly web of trouble demands only one absolute truth. He must awaken a far greater power. The scene shifts to the imposing headquarters of the Federal Special Inspection Unit. Inside, a visibly enraged senior officer brutally scolds Lisa. His fury stems from her blown cover, terrified of how he will ever justify this disaster to his demanding superiors. Panicking, Lisa bows in desperate apology, taking full responsibility for the failure. She confesses to completely miscalculating the boy's true power, his hidden depths, and his strategic mindset. Then, she stands tall, begging for one final chance to redeem her honor and capture their target. But the senior grimly warns that hunting Joe Wen is no longer a simple task. He tosses her a classified file, revealing a conspiracy far deeper than she ever imagined. Confusion and sharp curiosity flash across her eyes as she studies the forbidden documents. The senior reveals his mentor dug into the darkest secrets of Wang Lan and the powerful Ang family. The terrifying truth lies within those pages. Opening the dossier, Lisa freezes in utter shock. Their target has already been granted early admission to Sunset College. What shatters her logic is the location a domain once ruled by Ang Jin. It makes zero sense. Why would the elite Ang family surrender such a sacred place to an outsider like Joe Wen? The truth revolves around a legendary phenomenon known as the God-bestowed gift. Unbelievably, the Ang family has chosen Joe Wen to inherit this mighty God-bestowed gift. The secrets only deepen from here, so brace yourselves for the incoming storm. The senior silences her doubts, confirming his mentor's intelligence is flawless. The Ang family sacrificed their one and only chance to make Joe Wen their ultimate candidate. He marvels at how the threads of fate, from the notorious Jing Dioxan to the mighty Ang family, all violently converge on Joe Wen. The web of destiny is hopelessly tangled. Meanwhile, our hero sneezes, casually brushing it off as a simple chill. He remains blissfully unaware that a corrupt federal strike team has marked him as their prime target, plotting to hunt him down relentlessly. Gripping his worn backpack, he exhales a breath of pure relief, finally standing within the legendary walls of Sunset College. He examines the sleek access card given by his stepmother. Engraved on it are the words, Four Seasons Garden. That must be his sanctuary. Arriving at the grand building, he ascends the steps, swipes his pass, and enters his new domain. To his absolute shock, this room feels far more like a luxurious five-star palace than a student dorm. While most ordinary students survive here merely to slack off, this marks the dawn of his legendary academy life. However, the moment he unzips his backpack, a startling realization hits him. He packed far too little for this new chapter. With just bare essentials, he decides it is time for a supply run. Opening the campus map, he searches for stores. Suddenly, a familiar girl descends the stairs. He looks up and spots Ang Jing. Startled, he asks if she lives upstairs. The girl freezes in shock, refusing to answer. Pouting coldly, she walks right past him, ignoring his presence as she heads down. Our hero is clueless about her sudden fury. Choosing peace over drama, he pretends she never existed. Stepping outside the dorms, he checks his screen. Strangely, the shops marked on the map are nowhere to be found. Did he take a wrong turn? The desolate street stretches ahead, entirely empty. No one is around to ask for directions. An unexpected meow suddenly breaks the silence. He turns, finding someone playing with a cat. Following the gentle sound, he pauses. The deep male voice coaxing the kitten sounds very familiar. It is. No. Surprise. The person crouching with the cats is Ghana, the exact same brute he recently defeated in a high-stakes punch bet. Seeing this notoriously terrifying brawler acting so soft and cozy with tiny creatures is a massive shock. Our protagonist never imagined this ruthless fighter playing with fragile kittens. Gathering his courage, he calls out to Gon. A heavy silence drops. Gon quickly releases the kittens, his terrifying aura instantly returning. He snarls a dark warning. If word of this escapes, our boy is dead meat. Veins bulging with rage, he glares intensely at Joe. Feeling the murderous intent, our poor guy quickly Tabri swears he saw absolutely nothing. He nervously explains his search for the shops. If Gan could just point the way, he will vanish instantly. Baldy seems satisfied by this smart answer. His hostile stance relaxes, and as he is walking away, he reveals this is the old campus. He advises him to follow the main road, where he will eventually find guards to guide him. Gion pauses for a brief second. He shoots one final, bloodshot glare over his shoulder and warns him to leave the kittens alone. With that final threat, he walks away. Left alone, our hero softly pats the purring strays. He reflects on reality. Post-dimensional storm, humanity formed contracts with beasts from other universes. Possessing magical powers, these beings are absolutely loyal. Ordinary pets are totally ignored. So, seeing a fearsome brute like Ghana harboring a soft spot for these tiny creatures is truly shocking. Once, Back in his dorm, defeat weighs heavily on him. Pure frustration boils up. He is sick of constantly getting his life crushed in the game for absolutely no reason. Pinching his thumb to draw fresh blood, his avatar materializes inside the digital world again. He stands on the cursed stairs where his innards were brutally twisted. There is a deadly, unseen force guarding the small Buddhist temple. It slaughters anyone foolish enough to step forward. He finds this odd. Despite countless attempts to breach the temple, instant death claims him every time, even when he takes flight to avoid the ground. No matter his strategy, entering this domain guarantees immediate execution. He has exhausted every single tactic, yet those stairs remain impassable. But this is a game. There must logically be a limit. No matter the difficulty, a solution exists. Even against the skeleton knight and mosquitoes, he managed to defeat them eventually. However, this is different. He is killed instantly without any warning. It is not a boss fight anymore. This feels exactly like a sealed vault. He cannot pass without the key. To access the small Buddhist temple, finding the right key is mandatory. But within Buddha City, he can only explore the Lotus Pond, which holds absolutely nothing. Flashing back to the new meditation skill he acquired, he decides to test it. This skill from Buddha City offers 0 combat buffs. It raises neither speed nor defense, rapidly draining his ki. Igniting the meditation skill, he charges down the stairs again. Hitting the absolute bottom, he desperately leaps across the ground. Incredible! He survives. Defying instant death fills him with euphoric joy. Proudly, he strides into the small Buddhist temple. Thrilled to explore, he claims victory. Or so he thought. Keeping meditation active is devouring his ki. Total disaster is imminent. Death quickly claims him again, but he immediately summons his ki. Blood avatar back. Defeat strikes instantly as his ki evaporates at lightning speed. Furious, he quickly pinches his thumb, shedding blood to revive his avatar. This time, he sprints like an absolute maniac, determined to rush the firster, ki draining zone at maximum speed. Yet, inches from safety, his ki completely shatters again. Refusing to surrender, he squeezes his finger, letting crimson blood hit the floor. His raw speed is simply too slow to carry him safely into the small Buddhist temple. A daring idea sparks. He considers using the mosquito instead. He smiles smugly after he activates the wings, certain he will finally break through. But his smug confidence shatters instantly. His chi vanishes rapidly. While the wings grant incredible speed, they devour his energy reserves at a terrifying rate, especially alongside the meditation skill. He grudgingly accepts a harsh truth. It is impossible to pass this dead area using only a rank 7 meditation skill. His sole remaining option is higher ranked skills. He decides to explore the Lotus Pond once more, hoping to discover an advantage. Just as he prepares to depart, his phone starts ringing. He answers, and Lian is on the line. Xuan casually invites him to the Lotus Pond to watch a show. Intrigued by this, Shou asks what could be so interesting. Xian merely stares, straight ahead. Our hero's stepsister faces off against a hulking, gorilla-like brute. He cryptically replies that he will understand upon arrival. As she stands strong, shocked murmurs ripple through the crowd. They whisper she had reached the legendary level before even enrolling. Her opponent is Yang Lu, a formidable level 3, legendary figure. This brute boldly claimed he would slay the Buddha Heart Lotus as a tribute. She glances at the flower. With absolute swagger, she tells him not to waste his breath on mundane things. She is certain he is all bark and no bite. He could never defeat the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. Her cold remark infuriates Yang Lu, deeply humiliated by her rejection. Meanwhile, Xuan is impressed to discover that the flower's true name is the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. This proves she has completely done us. Analyzed the monster. We also spot the lackey, Mei Yu, from earlier. He points out that Yang Lu is only bought, staging this massive show purely to impress the Ong family. Shen calmly notes that although the Yang family possesses fame, they are nothing before the Ong family. Even the Yang family's entire business relies on them, and Angjing would never look twice at someone like Yang Lu. The lackey agrees, adding that the only person worthy of her is Luan himself. But the boss sharply shuts his lackey down, declaring zero interest in Ang Jing. After all, he refuses to cross that line with a friend's sister. That friend, naturally, is our hero. When he finally strolls into the scene, he spots his stepsister. He asks Zan if he seriously called him here to show off his sister. The playboy smirks, claiming that is clearly not the main event. He notes her new admirer, and, as her protective brother, he must judge the foolish man, falling head over heels for her. Meanwhile, Yang Lu seethes with blind fury following the humiliating rejection. He firmly believes that once he slaughters the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus, he will make her swallow her pride and accept his gift. Yet, the girl dismisses him, calling it pointless. She tells him to stop embarrassing himself. This breaks Yang Lu's patience. He summons his pets, and two white eagle-like beasts pierce the sky. Mayu stares in absolute awe at these legendary-level silvery eagles. There are two of them, no less. The arrogant Yang Lu barks ruthless orders. His pets dive furiously toward the lotus flower. The lotus flower refuses to sit idly. It fires a brutal crimson laser, crashing directly into one of the eagles. Yang Lu coldly laughs it off. He mocks that such puny tricks cannot stop his pets. The eagles scatter the crimson, blood laser attack and fiercely strike back. This leaves Mayu utterly awestruck again. He is blown away by the reality that those feathers possess immunity to blood erosion. No wonder they reign at the legendary level. By now, he feels certain the Buddha Heart Lotus might actually be violently plucked. But in that tense moment, our hero calmly throws in his thoughts. He declares it will not be that simple, and the fierce battle is far from over. The eagles mercilessly tear at the formidable petals. Suddenly, the ancient lotus awakens. The mighty petals unfurl, forcing the eagles to quickly retreat. The ominous flower glares at the beasts, sending a terrifying chill down Yang Lu's spine. It suddenly becomes painfully clear that he has bitten off far more than he can chew. Xuan explains that while most lotus creatures remain weak, this beast is a completely different, terrifying species. However, the cocky gorilla refuses to back down in defeat. Without a fierce fight, he transforms his eagles into blazing beasts, looking like the magnificent reincarnation of phoenixes. With fiery forms, they charge the lotus flower at blinding lightning speed. They unleash their lethal golden claw ability. But the flower manifests a brilliant crimson shield. It stops the phoenixes cold before they can deal any devastating damage. The brute is absolutely stunned. The flower actually possesses a defensive chi fighting skill. But that is when he realizes the blood shield only blocks direct, close-range assaults. Adapting quickly, he decides to keep the beast occupied with his current phoenixes. Meanwhile, he commands another phoenix eagle to strike viciously from above. Caught off guard, Joe realizes the brute is striking from above. This instantly triggers a chilling memory of his past game, where this exact beast devoured him from the sky. He screams that it is a deadly trap. But before the brute can grasp his warning, the eagle plunges straight toward the lotus. The monster's massive, terrifying maw snaps open. In a split second, the blazing eagle is swallowed whole in a single devastating bite. The demonic flower lets out a sinister belch, relishing its roasted prey. The onlookers are paralyzed by this horrifying spectacle. Yang Lu has lost his precious eagle in one fell swoop. Even he stands completely baffled by what just transpired. He frantically recalls his last familiar, gritting his teeth in sheer, helpless frustration. That is, when the brute struts toward Joe. Looming over him with his usual arrogant swagger, he demands to know how in the world he foresaw the trap. Naturally, Joe cannot reveal that he has already battled this very beast in the game. Thankfully, Mei Yu intervenes, declaring that Joe obviously knew the danger. After all, he ranks second in the real combat test of Guida province. The brute merely scoffs it off, but Mei Yu refuses to back down. He asks the arrogant rival what is so amusing. Do you not feel a shred of remorse for losing your silvery eagle? If it were me, I'd bury myself alive out of sheer humiliation. Yang Lu's fury ignites, and he aggressively demands to see how. The second-ranked prodigy plans to slay the lotus. Mei Yu boldly counters that Joe will handle it with total ease, and it will be a simple task for him, unlike Yang Lu, who just made a total fool of himself before the crowd. Meanwhile, Joe remains utterly silent. unsure of how to respond. Suddenly, his stepsister rushes onto the scene. She steps right into his personal space, questioning if he can truly slay the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. Once again, Joe is unsure what to say. As much as he hates to admit it, he never actually defeated the blood-striped Buddha in the game. And the Lotus, right here, is unleashing attacks that never appeared in the virtual world. But with her piercing gaze locked onto him, he refuses to look like a coward by admitting defeat. He simply clenches his fists in silent, mounting frustration. Meanwhile, the brute starts chuckling darkly. He points out Joe's evident fear, mocking that empty words are the only skill he possesses. That is when Li Xuan steps forward, declaring his burning desire to fight and crush this monster. Brute is visibly shaken by this sudden twist. He never expected the notorious wealthy playboy of the Li family to enter the fray. But a sinister grin returns to his face. If his elite silvery eagles failed, then these fools are merely daydreaming of victory. With a scoff, Yang Lu accepts, sneering that he is eagerly looking forward to witnessing their pathetic attempt. Moments later, the tense crowd gathers on one side, while Zhou and his two allies stand opposite. Li Xuan is furious that Mei Yu provoked the arrogant brute and dragged them into this Phonogrode deadly challenge. But Zhou coldly reminds him that pointless bickering will not save them now, because they have already accepted the trial. They must focus on survival. Zhou remains remarkably confident. Even though his ferocious blood avatar was not enough to fell the beast alone, he knows their combined strength can shift the tides of fate. The outcome might shock everyone, especially since Li Xuan commands two legendary-level creatures, vastly increasing their chances of absolute victory. The only obstacle is crossing the lethal lotus pond. Zhou admits his skeleton ant cannot bear the burden alone, and cannot shield all three of them in battle. Li Xuan adds that he currently lacks any aerial beasts, and his new sky familiar can barely maintain flight. Just then, Mei Yu steps up, securing a mask over his face. "Leave this to me," he declares. He summons his familiar, and a colossal turtle suddenly plummets from the sky into the plest, corrosive water. As the beast floats, its giant shell forms a solid platform, granting them a path to stand above the deadly acid. Li Xuan is awestruck to see that even Mei Yu possesses a mortal-level symbiotic egg. He thought only Zhou wielded pets of that caliber. Without hesitation, the trio rides atop the giant turtle toward the flower. Mei Yu instructs his comrades to engage the twisted lotus directly, while he commands his dragon-scale turtle to provide critical support from the sidelines. Instantly, Zhou and Li Xuan detonate their spiritual pet powers. Then, Zhou leaps into the sky, summons his skeleton ant, and lands firmly upon its back. Li Xuan refuses to be outdone, and instantly initiates his transformation. The crowd erupts into absolute chaos, seeing that the notorious third son of the Li family wields a legendary-level creature. The proud noble dons his pitch-black armor, fully prepared to dive into the bloody clash. Meanwhile, the arrogant rival seethes with rage, realizing these three might actually defeat the monster thanks to their elite pets. His stepsister watches intently, not missing a single moment. It looks, the armored playboy struggles to balance on his conch. Zhou commands Mei Yu to watch over Luan, ensuring the shell's unstable magic holds strong. They cannot let their comrade plummet into the deadly acid below. Mei nods, promising to protect him. With that, the two warriors charge. Suddenly, the monstrous Buddha unleashes a barrage of crimson projectiles. Zhou commands his beast to defend. The skeletal ant instantly rises, taking the deadly strike head-on to shield its masters. Seizing the perfect opening, the black-armored warrior unleashes a devastating sword slash at the beast. The monstrous flower retaliates with its crimson wave, but Xuan's blade tears straight through the bloody fluid, striking the flower's core. Meanwhile, Zhou's ant unleashes a terrifying roar. Lethal spikes erupt from the ground, slamming violently into the flower. Yet, this monstrous abomination remains completely unfazed. It unleashes its crimson aura once more, obliterating the earthen spikes as if they were mere fragile twigs. Witnessing this familiar trick, Zhou realizes the beast might be baiting a strike from above. However, the playboy interrupts. He declares full confidence in shattering this monster directly from the blog front. Surging his blade with power, he vanishes into thin air. At the exact same moment, the beast refuses to yield. A deafening roar echoes as a violent, tornado-like force gathers in its jaws. The heavy pressure violently pushes them back, but the armored warrior holds his ground. With his ultimate strike fully charged, he descends upon the monster like a devastating meteor. That single, cataclysmic blow completely obliterates the demonic lotus from the inside out. But as the burning petals crumble, a vile frog hidden within suddenly spews out. A deadly stream of dark venom. It rockets straight toward the exhausted playboy, who is completely drained and falling completely defenseless. But right before impact, Joe unleashes his ultimate power. Roaring flames violently erupt, incinerating the dark venom. Joe threw his fiery punch from afar, and the shattering shockwave of dark energy shatters the shell Xuan was riding. Joe desperately orders Mei to catch Luan, focusing on the vile toad. The lackey agrees. Joe instantly darts forward, leaping off his skeletal ant with his fist blazing with overwhelming fiery energy. The monstrous toad spits out more acidic sludge, but Joe easily dodges the lethal attack, realizing its impending doom. The terrifying beast braces for impact. Joe's devastating explosive strike completely engulfs the creature, and when the blazing smoke clears, nothing remains of the monster but a gruesome splatter of blood. Suddenly, Joe realizes that Xuan is plunging straight toward the deadly acid pool. The playboy realizes Meo is intentionally letting him die, cementing the betrayal as Mei Yu smugly declares that Xuan deserves to burn in acid. Meanwhile, the stepsister prepares to intervene, but before she can act, Joe violently swoops in, grabbing his comrade just in the nick of time. Narrowly escaping the fatal acid, the playboy feels deeply humiliated, needing Joe's rescue again. Once they safely land on the dragon turtle shell, Meo furiously screams at Joe, accusing him of concealing another symbiotic beast. But Joe merely sighs in cold disappointment, reminding the traitor he had only one simple task and failed miserably. Suddenly, Xuan delivers a devastating slap to Meiu's face, mocking his pathetic acting skills. The heavy strike sends Meiu tumbling, demanding why they were betrayed. Bleeding from the crushing blow, the bastard sneers that the playboy can never defeat his brother Li Mubi, revealing that Mubi has already bought everyone's loyalty. In a desperate final act, Meiu pulls a trick and shatters the dragon crystal supporting Joe and Xuan. He viciously declares that if he cannot slaughter the playboy himself, he will drag them all down into the burning acid. As the shattered crystal plunges into the pool, absolute despair grips the warriors. But in that final heartbeat, a mysterious blob erupts, safely encapsulating them both. Before they hit the acid, the master behind this miraculous rescue? None other than Joe's own stepsister. The scene shifts to the tense investigation office at Sunset College. Both warriors face strict interrogation from the officer. After processing the grim details, they are finally dismissed. Stepping outside, Luan is crushed by overwhelming despair, questioning why the entire world wants him dead. Joe pierces the silence, demanding to know why his brother harbors such deadly hatred, and why he will stop at nothing to assassinate him. Luan confesses that he and his brother, Li Mubi, have been estranged since their eldest sibling's tragic death. While Mubi relentlessly controls the family empire alongside their father, Luan has merely lived a hollow, carefree life. Joe questions why Mubi is so desperate to eliminate him if not for power. Xuan grimly replies that the truth is far darker. Joe demands answers, prompting Xuan to seek absolute privacy, away from the enemy's hidden spies. Moments later, scattered cola cans litter the ground as the scene reveals. Back in Joe's dorm, our hero glares at his friend, trashing the room. W starts the talk, asking if Joe grasps the gap between creature ranks. He explains that beasts range from mortal, legendary, epic, to mythical. With each rank, the power gap widens. The difference between mortal and mythical classes is absolute. Mortals are merely ants, before mythical beasts. Knowing this, he asks how mortal humans defeated the very first mythic creature. Joe answers directly, stating history books have the answer. After 3 grueling days and nights, the original 6 epic Federation heroes slew the beast. Sean laughs it off. He reminds Joe that even 100 epic heroes would fail, let alone 6. The true reason mythical beasts fell was because humans wielded mythical symbiotic beasts. Chu is completely stunned. He cannot grasp this truth. How could they claim mythical pets before slaying the actual monsters? Normally, eggs only drop after defeating the beast. Lean reveals it was a god-bestowed gift. A higher being granted the 6 heroes the power to slay mythical beasts. That power came as a mythical creature larva. Joe brushes it off as a groundless myth, but Xuan explains the Federation hides a top-secret unit. It conceals the true deeds of those 6 heroes. The public knows nothing. He adds that this very department selects chosen mortals to receive this god-bestowed gift, just like those heroes. Joe finally considers if this divine gift is real. He wonders why Luan is exposing these deep secrets to him. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces align. Joe demands the truth, and the playboy proudly smirks. He reveals his father named him the prime heir for their family's god-bestowed gift. The only way Lioi can steal that right is by killing Lian. The next morning, the blue-haired boy sleeps while Joe grinds intensely on his phone. He recalls Xuan's dire warning from the night before. By saving Xuan, he ruined Moai's plots. Now, Mubi is definitely hunting him down. This danger fuels Joe's burning desire. He dives deeper into the game, desperate for power. Suddenly, a system window flashes. His silver-winged mosquito is starving. Joe curses in frustration. He mutters, "Do you realize how expensive a symbiotic egg is?" But, deep down, he knows he must feed it. To evolve his companion, his only path is slaughtering monsters for eggs. The beasts tremble as Joe approaches, his eyes blazing red. At college, students swarm to watch yesterday's battle footage. They gasp as our duo crushes the monster. The crowd is completely awestruck by Lan's legendary beasts. It is insane, considering he is merely an ordinary ranker. Joe's deadly support skills also command massive respect. Many believe that if their third member had not betrayed them, the Lotus Core would be destroyed. The girls wildly gossip, absolutely mesmerized by Luan's battle charm. They turn to Wei Young, who happens to be Luan's sister. They beg her to introduce them to her brother. But Wing is too distracted, staring at her own crush our hero, Joe. A sweet smile blooms as she watches his fierce combat. Meanwhile, the Federal Investigation Unit is captivated by Joe Wen's battle footage. They are utterly speechless at his flawless dodge against the poisoned toad. That one-hit obliteration is terrifying. Lisa steps in, stating Joe Wen's raw physical strength cannot explain such devastation. She suspects a supreme, top-tier key spell. However, records show he only practices bitter meditation. That technique is far from elite. The senior investigator agrees, yet a deep mystery remains. He recalls a past encounter in Guida province. He witnessed a glimpse of Joe Wen's aura. Back then, Joe possessed a jade, luster the ultimate mark of bitter meditation. Now, that aura has vanished completely. This proves he abandoned the ancient art. Lisa asks if the senior truly believes Joe dropped his lifelong path. If so, who gifted him such a legendary key spell? Who forced him to abandon bitter meditation entirely? The senior pauses, tension filling the room. 2 formidable names echo in his mind: the Ong family, and undoubtedly Jing Daoxan. After all, it was Jing Daoxan who gifted our doctor boy the legendary Lost Immortal Sutra. The elder senses his own technique fading. This can only mean one thing: our boy is finally awakening his true power. At headquarters, the senior notes his meeting with stepmother Wang Lan recently. Even if she bestowed a new chi spell upon him, he lacked the time to master it. Therefore, if they eliminate the Ong family, only Jing Daoxan remains. The senior immediately commands Lisa to charge Joe Wen as Jing Daoxan's accomplice. They must secure a cross-district arrest warrant. It is finally the time to interrogate our boy face to face. Lisa eagerly complies. Pulling up the glowing system interface, she displays Joe Wen's complete profile. She craves the thrill of the hunt, eager to unleash his impending doom. She questions if the Ong family will shield him at college. The senior firmly reassures her. Once the warrant is secured, federal law strips away all protection. Furthermore, Ong Tianzuo and Ong Jin continuously target him. They clearly oppose Joe Wen fighting for the god-bestowed gift. Perhaps they never intended to protect him at all. The scene shifts to our stepsister, her eyes filled with rare hesitation before entering Joe Wen's apartment. Echoes of the past surface. She remembers confronting her mother about choosing our mother, boy as the God-bestowed gift candidate. He possesses talent, yes, but raw talent alone cannot forge a path to victory. Besides, he is hopelessly addicted to his gaming screen. But in that very moment, her breathtakingly elegant mother stood firm. The matriarch declared her decision absolute, choosing to fight rather than yield. Snapped back to reality, frustration boils within the girl. She swears to prove to her mother that her strength reigns supreme. Steeling herself, she knocks. Yet, before she can react, Joe swings the door wide, eyes locked on his screen. Reality slowly sets in, as an Jin blocks his path. The proud stepsister declares her sun's shooting spell is authentic. He may practice it freely. Joe Wen merely stands, utterly baffled. Is this a mere display of arrogance? Deep down, he knows that even if he desired its power, he could not master it. The lost immortal sutra already flows within him. She coldly asks if he still dares to doubt her. Take the flash drive to their father, she challenges. Let him verify the truth. Joe Wen releases a heavy sigh. He finally questions her motive for offering such a profound spell. Her answer is sharp. To prove her superiority. She smirks, asking if her victory in high school left him bitter. Our boy flashes a radiant smile. Not at all. He genuinely respects her power. This infuriates her as she forcefully reminds him of his public humiliation. A warrior's pride should crave revenge. She then reveals she witnessed his hidden strength at the Lotus Pond. Given 3 months of mastering the sun's shooting spell, he might reach legendary rank. Until that fateful day, her challenge stands. Our boy calmly asks to just surrender now. This cowardly request only fuels the stubborn warrior's fury, commanding him to accept her absolute duel. Smoke practically rises from her head. How could her flawless mother ever to select such a weakling? Reluctantly, she turns toward her dormitory. Before vanishing, she offers Joe precious chi crystals as a wager. Take what you need, she warns. Next time, no mercy will be shown. Joe remains in silence, contemplating her staggering talent. A Federation-recognized prodigy reaching the legendary rank at just 13. Her obsession with crushing him makes zero sense. Clearly, our oblivious hero remains entirely blind to his own destiny. He is the Ong family's chosen vessel for the God-bestowed gift. Regardless, he gathers Li Xuan's trash from last night. Tossing the garbage, his focus snaps back to the game. He remains glued to the screen as combat escalates. Victory! He has finally conquered the mighty Lotus Buddha flower. His ant skeleton claims the Buddha heart lotus egg. He retrieves the divine drop from his pet, heart racing as he opens the stat screen. Li Xuan swore the symbiotic heart of this beast held unimaginable utility. Meanwhile, his silver-winged mosquito larvae is starving. Without immediate nourishment, it will perish into dust. He lets out an exhausted sigh, sacrificing his prize to feed the creature. Upon pressing the command, the larvae begins to undergo a miraculous evolution. Bathed in blinding light, Joe Wen prays for a terrifying monster. But in the end, disappointment strikes. The larva remains pathetically small. He has already sacrificed 2 ordinary-sized symbiotic eggs, yet its form refuses to shift. Do ordinary eggs hold zero power over a legendary? Claiming a legendary symbiotic egg is an uphill battle. It demands exhausting effort, even if he clashes with the skeleton knight repeatedly. The drop rate for legendary eggs is incredibly low. Securing one will take an eternity. He collapses on his bed, utterly defeated. He still faces his sister's wrath, and if he fails to reach the legendary level within 3 months, he is doomed. He suddenly recalls that due to the lost, immortal sutra, he cannot practice the sun shooting spell. The sutra's mysteries remain entirely unsolved, leaving him clueless on advancing. Cursing his miserable fate, a sudden knock on the door interrupts his thoughts. When he opens it, the familiar face of Gao Yang greets him. He questions the visit, and Gao claims he is apologizing. This raises Joe's suspicions, doubting his true intentions. Gao Yang continues his rambling, insisting that Their hostility must end. He offers a hollow apology for their past conflicts, wishing to erase all their bitter grievances. He extends a hand toward Joe, proposing a fresh start. Reluctantly accepting the sudden gesture, he prepares to close the door, claiming he is busy gaming. But Gao Yang firmly stops him, insisting there is one more crucial detail to share. He then drags Joe away to a new location, introducing him to a mysterious Reldo friend named Hyun. The newcomer simply smiles, thanking Gao Yang for delivering Joe Wen to their meeting. Suddenly, Hyun moves with blinding speed. He materializes right before Joe Wen, taking the menacing form of a terrifying beast. Yet, Joe remains unfazed. He coldly tells Hyun that if he seeks an actual battle, they can settle it in the arena without destroying this place. Hyun simply snaps his fingers, and the ominous red aura instantly vanishes. He praises Joe for remaining so exceptionally calm under pressure. As the dark form fades, Hyun stands revealed alongside two followers. He offers a polite apology for his sudden hostility and introduces himself properly as Hyun. Wasting no time, he cuts to the chase, inviting Joe to join their elite squad. Their goal is to annihilate the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. It seems Joe had not entirely shattered the flower's core previously, allowing it to survive. Suspicious, Joe demands to know why they chose him. Hyun explains that he meticulously analyzed the battle footage between Joe and the mutant Lotus. While Luan fought well, Hyun found Joe's tactical command and flawless judgment far superior. He points out that the Academy harbors fighters stronger than Luan. Yet, the true deciding factor was Joe Wen's unparalleled battlefield awareness. He perfectly predicted Luan's moves, eliminating the toxic toad at the precise Hyun. Hyun boldly claims, without their third member's cowardly betrayal, Joe would have won entirely. He further guarantees Joe will not face the perilous Lotus Pawns directly. His only task is to command the squad and safely manage their symbiotic pets from the sidelines. Despite this tempting offer, Joe coldly rejects their proposal. In his mind, defeating his in-game boss holds far more priority than guiding arrogant upperclassmen. He has nearly unraveled the Lotus's weaknesses and plans to conquer it alone. Gao Yang urges him to reconsider, warning that Hyun and the two seniors hold legendary rank at the academy. Joining them ensures a massive advantage, and with their overwhelming power, triumph is absolute. But Joe remains completely unyielding, refusing again, igniting Gao's raging fury. Gao inwardly curses. Without Hyun's orders, he never would have approached this arrogant brat. Just then, Hyun halts Joe's departure, urging him not to be so hasty. He demands to know Joe's price, fully, confident they can fulfill any reasonable request. Joe slowly turns around, leaving the fierce upperclassmen stunned by demanding a legendary symbiotic egg. Gao Yang erupts with fury at this arrogant extortion. Yet, despite his blazing anger, Joe stands firm like a mountain. He casually proclaims he will lead their squad for a legendary symbiotic egg. Gao Yang's patience shatters. Surging forward, he violently grabs Joe's collar, warning him not to push his luck. He mocks Joe's minor role in their alliance, stating that merely commanding symbiotic pets hardly justifies demanding such a priceless legendary egg. Joe calmly tells Gao Yang to contain his rage. The choice belongs to them. If they pay his price, they have a deal. Otherwise, they can walk away. Suddenly, Hyun intervenes to defuse the tension, asking if Joe requires specific attributes for this legendary symbiotic egg. Joe simply shrugs, admitting he has no strict preference. In secret, he only desires this legendary artifact as monster food, a truth he keeps completely hidden. Without hesitation, Hyun tosses a glowing egg to Joe, asking if it suffices. Well, Joe Wen is clearly pleased by the heavy tribute. He drops all demands, knowing securing a legendary egg for free is more than enough for him. Hyung offers a firm fist bump to seal the deal, and Joe Wen quickly reciprocates, finalizing their binding agreement. As they part ways, Gao Yang turns to his companion, questioning how he could surrender the flaming toxic bee's symbiotic egg so easily. He cannot comprehend this deep trust in Joe Wen. Hang simply reminds his ally that, after analyzing the battle footage, he sensed an extraordinary aura around our boy. It was almost as if he had battled the Lotus before. Gao Yang is visibly shocked by this revelation, but Haiyun just walks off, telling him not to stress. The egg is merely part of the pact, serving as insurance against utter failure. Back in his room, our boy summons his winged mosquito. Once the creature materializes, he reveals the legendary symbiotic egg he secured for its feast. Without hesitation, he tosses the egg straight into his pet's jaws. Instantly, a massive surge of blazing aura completely surrounds the small beast as a powerful evolution begins. When the fiery transformation concludes, our winged mosquito emerges with piercing green eyes, a lethal needle-like stinger, and a drastically massive frame. It is vastly larger than before. Joe finds it fascinating that this grand evolution perfectly merged the flaming toxic bee's attributes, likely because both creatures share an insect lineage. He then inspects the stats. He notices the larva tag has finally vanished, meaning his mosquito has truly matured. But what truly shocks him is the monumental stat boost. It nearly shatters the limits of a legendary creature. On top of that, it awakened a new skill called Magic Light Sting. This attack fires a long, high-speed energy beam capable of piercing straight through targeted enemies. Joan cannot help but flash a confident grin at his newly evolved beast. With its incredible upgrades, he is completely confident it can destroy the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. Without delay, he quickly drips some blood onto the screen, summoning his blood avatar alongside the fully upgraded winged mosquito. Wasting absolutely zero time, he sends his mosquito charging fiercely at the lotus. The lotus refuses to just sit and take damage. It conjures up that crimson energy, trying to blast the mosquito straight out of the sky. But the beast dashes through the attack with lightning speed, moving almost too fast to track. As the mosquito closes in, it is a hair away from piercing the flower's eye with its razor-sharp claws. But in a split second, the cunning lotus dives into the water, leaving the mosquito wondering where it vanished. Just then, the mosquito senses a dark presence rising from below the ground. The lotus tries to catch it off guard by striking from the depths. However, the mosquito smoothly dodges the treacherous petals and makes a flawless escape. The mosquito then locks its gaze back onto the flower. It accelerates its descent momentum by unleashing the silverwing attack, aiming directly for the killing blow. The lotus tries to block the vicious strike with its crimson substance, but the mosquito isn't finished yet. With blistering speed, it circles back, effortlessly slicing through the crimson barrier with its bladed wings. The lotus writhes in sheer frustration until it violently explodes, revealing a hidden toad inside, exactly like we saw in the real-life battle. As expected, the hideous toad quickly starts launching gooey, sticky sludge at the mosquito. But the agile creature dodges everything with absolute ease. It instantly counters with a fierce sting attack, firing a sharp crimson needle straight into the toad. The toad violently pops like a balloon the moment the deadly needle strikes. Another fierce sting from the mosquito completely obliterates the lotus's core, triggering a massive, earth-shaking explosion. In the chaotic aftermath, just as the thick haze starts to clear, the mosquito makes night, sure to snatch the crystal from the smoking ruins. Meanwhile, our boy watches in pure awe, still doubting if his winged mosquito's power has truly reached such legendary heights. His victorious pet returns with the prize, quickly spitting out the demonic crystal of the lotus. Joe does not waste a single second and scoops up the glowing red crystal. He feels extremely confident that the chi fighting skill of this blood-striped Buddha heart lotus could be the ultimate key to entering that small Buddhist temple. He aggressively absorbs the crystal, but this time, the raw energy absorption starts affecting his physical body in real life. It feels like a hellish heat trying to cook his flesh alive. Yet, Joe endures the agonizing pain like a champion. Moments later, the system announces that the demonic crystal of the blood-striped Buddha heart lotus has been successfully absorbed. His original combat skill, meditation, has been upgraded into a far stronger ability known as blood meditation. Once the grueling process is over, Joe Wen's body is still emitting scorching steam. He rinses his sweat-drenched shirt, giving it a powerful twist to wring out the water. After that, he activates his newly acquired blood meditation skill. Just as expected, the intense chi consumption rate with blood meditation is vastly slower than regular meditation, allowing his massive power to last for about half an hour. He is now feeling highly confident that this mastery will help him conquer the small Buddhist temple like an absolute pro. Wasting absolutely zero time, he dives straight back into the deadly game. He finally crosses the ancient stairs of the underground Buddha city, marching forward with completely renewed vigor, showing absolutely no signs of exhaustion. He feels triumphant, knowing this enhanced meditation skill is finally helping him resist. Braving the area's oppressive power, he sprints until he finally reaches the main entrance of the small Buddhist temple. Tension grips his heart. He hesitates, completely unsure of what terrifying monsters might lurk inside. Yet, he steps inside. Scanning the eerie surroundings, a chilling realization hits him. There is not a single dimensional creature in sight. Suddenly, an ancient stone slab catches his eye. It bears mysterious Chinese characters, and its title proclaims it as the Short Sutra on Perfect Wisdom. A memory flashes. The large sutra on perfect wisdom is a legendary artifact. Legends say a monk unearthed it amidst a dimensional storm, securing its place as one of the two greatest chi spells in Buddhism. He knows instantly this short sutra must also be a divine spell. However, the moment he attempts to read the ancient inscription, the words violently twist and warp. He is suddenly struck by a brutal headache. It feels like unseen forces are scrambling his brain. He clutches his head in agony, and suddenly, a radiant light erupts from his avatar's chest. In the blink of an eye, the crushing pressure he endured completely vanishes. He realizes the flowing speed of his immortal sutra has drastically decelerated. The overwhelming burden lifts, and all discomfort fades as he gazes at the sacred text. But just as he tries to comprehend this mystical phenomenon, he spots a dire warning. His chi bar is rapidly draining. He has not entered the Buddhist hall yet, so he bolts forward, wasting no time. Arriving outside the small Buddhist temple, he forces the heavy doors wide open, discovers a colossal statue with 3 Buddha faces. He questions if such a terrifying 3-faced deity even exists in Buddhist lore. But the instant he steps inside, his avatar violently contorts. Just like that, the game ends. He dies again, devoid of any warning or logical reason. It seems he must uncover the temple's hidden rules before daring to enter the sacred grounds. Still, this brutal death teaches him the horrific trials his predecessors endured just to obtain their legendary power. They truly risked their lives, earning his profound respect. Yet, even with blood meditation aiding him, he still failed to breach the Buddhist hall. However, the complete absence of any dimensional monsters strongly suggests that unlocking the temple is directly tied to that enigmatic stone tablet. He is absolutely certain the ancient slab contains a formidable chi spell. But having already cultivated the lost immortal sutra, he knows the laws forbid practicing another chi spell right now. Regardless, he resolves to memorize the carved sutra. Surprisingly, his mind absorbs this mystical script, far faster than the lost immortal sutra. Halfway through the mental transcription, he decides to retreat from the small Buddhist temple's vicinity before his chi depletes. He plans to return and finish reading it once his energy is fully restored. He spends the entire day repeating this cycle, fighting exhaustion while relentlessly grinding. Eventually, he finally memorizes the complete sutra. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupts from his body, leaving him utterly astounded by a strange new chi surging wildly through his core. Only one shocking explanation makes sense. This must be the short sutra on perfect wisdom he just memorized. Looking at his real hands, he actually feels this new chi spell. Without even cultivating it, the energy circulates autonomously through his meridians, based entirely on his memory. He has no clue how this miracle occurred. Too exhausted to unravel these profound mysteries tonight, he chooses to surrender to sleep, and vows to uncover the truth upon waking. Yet, the moment he drifts into a deep slumber, mysterious ethereal patterns begin manifesting across his chiseled physique. Ironically, despite being a total slacker who only games, he possesses one of the most impressive bodies. It sparks genuine envy. If writing Manhwa Recaps granted such power, I would easily be the strongest entity on this planet. Anyway, after a restorative rest, he steps into the morning shower. As the water cascades over his body, he screams in absolute terror. His very skin is peeling away. Exiting the bath, he wonders if this shedding is caused by the short sutra on perfect wisdom circulating within him. Shaking off the shock, he grips his phone to check his stats. Shockingly, his old lost immortal sutra chi spell hasn't vanished. Instead, his physical constitution has shattered the level 10 limit, rising to 11. Furthermore, he distinctly feels the short sutra on perfect wisdom circulating flawlessly through his veins. Then, a mind-bending realization strikes. Miraculously, he can seamlessly swap and circulate his new chi with the lost immortal sutra. He achieved the impossible, mastering two distinct chi spells at once. This is a huge triumph, as most chi spells possess fiercely conflicting natures, making it suicidal to operate two at once. Usually, the more advanced the chi spells become, the more violently they reject coexistence. Suddenly, his phone pierces the silence. It is Hang, shouting that the group has already reached the lotus pond to battle the mystical lotus flower. He demands to know why. He has not arrived yet. It seems our guy got so lost in his epic gaming grind that he entirely forgot his real-life promise. He arrives at the lotus pond, where the raid party is already striking the core of the lotus flower. Taking absolute command, his flawless guidance allows the assault team to obliterate the slime. He immediately orders everyone to retreat 20 meters as the beasts step back. However, an arrogant team member foolishly ignores the command, insisting they must deliver the killing blow instead of retreating. The rogue hunter takes charge himself, commanding his flying beasts to launch Bloodblade Rain. The devastating feather barrage shreds the roses battlefield. A massive explosion shakes the ground, instantly incinerating one of the birds of Pornet. Arrogant fool falls silent in shock. He bluntly states he will not compensate for the lost bird, as his orders were ignored. The captain apologizes, admitting his grave mistake, and waiving any payment. Once the lotus flower crumbles into dust, two instructors are seen observing near the tunnel entrance. The blonde instructor feels a twinge of jealousy that such talent will be her student. The bespectacled woman notes his terrifying foresight, suspecting he knew the Buddha Heart Lotus would detonate at the last second. Defeating the Buddha Heart Lotus in the Western District Military Department cost 5 legendary creature sacrifices. The blonde notes his ties to the Ang family, assuming he obtained the classified intel from them. The other replies that Ang Jing and her brother despise Joe, making a willing information exchange highly unlikely. This mystery only deepens her curiosity about his true potential. Returning to the game, deep within the dungeon under the lotus pond, the toad awakens. It spits venomous black orbs, but the silver-winged mosquito elegantly evades the barrage, executing a lethal wing strike. To finish the beast, the mosquito unleashes its magic light sting. A massive explosion consumes the target, leaving him immensely satisfied. With his mastery of the boss patterns and his summons power, victory is effortless. Suddenly, his device chimes with a rare loot drop, a symbiotic egg of the blood-striped Buddha Heart Lotus. He inspects the prize, revealing an alchemy-level egg with impressive attributes. However, he discovers that, unlike the main boss, this variant only possesses a single chi fighting skill. Fearing the risks of hatching a weak larva, Buddha Heart Lotus, he considers fusion. Unfortunately, the fusion success rate is completely abysmal. A sudden system prompt offers an alternative. Feed the egg directly to the silver-winged mosquito. He recalls his summon's previous evolution after consuming a legendary egg, hoping for another miraculous awakening. He initiates the feeding sequence, yet absolutely nothing changes. It seems he just wasted a precious legendary egg, leaving him completely clueless on how to trigger its evolution. Pushing forward, his avatar sprints toward the desolate Buddhist temple. Approaching the gates, he channels his chi spell to the short wisdom sutra. He grins as the sacred energy circulates flawlessly. Stepping inside, the ancient Buddha statue looms overhead. Suddenly, strange liquid weeps from the stone, and a glowing runic circle ignites beneath his blood avatar. He braces for an instant death trap, but the spell holds no malice. Instead, multiple mysterious orbs manifest around him. Examining closer, they are unhatched symbiotic eggs. A system. Notification flashes with ancient lore. The inscription reveals this statue embodies one of the 5 kings of knowledge: conquerors of the three worlds of desire, form, and formlessness. The deity now offers him a divine gift. Suspicion creeps in. Why would this ancient entity offer free symbiotic eggs? As he inspects the loot, the system blocks all attribute data. The true potential remains completely unknown. Trusting his instincts, he selects one of the three at random. Instantly, the system decrees that a boast of voles, mythical creature hatching has commenced. Panic sets in as he angrily throws his device, having never confirmed the process. It is not about rejecting a mythical beast's dimensional supremacy. The terrifying reality is that a mere legendary hatching nearly ended his life. He dreads the unimaginable agony a mythical creature will inflict. But with the hatching officially confirmed, the ultimate arc of pain begins. A sinister crimson shadow suffocates him. Terrified of becoming the first player to die from a game, moments later he lay sprawled on the ground, completely drained, looking like he just survived an exhausting virtual fantasy session. He was shocked to even be breathing after enduring the mythical creature's intense hatching process. His blood and chi felt completely depleted. Still, the immense sacrifice seemed entirely worth it. Otherwise, he never would have obtained such a fluffy, cute furball. He named the creature Ding, feeling initially confused, because mythical beasts were supposed to be absolute powerhouses capable of utter destruction. Yet, this tiny companion hardly fit that terrifying legend. Grabbing his phone, he scanned the creature's stats, only to find grim news. The system classified it as an ordinary creature at the primary stage. However, what truly shocked him was that its attributes all sat in the double digits. That level of power was far from ordinary. It defied logic to call it normal. Promised a mythical beast, he now felt completely scammed by this useless system. Yet, focusing in on the word's primary stage, he began to deeply wonder if it could evolve like the legendary silver-winged mosquito. In myths, the white dog of Bodhisattva Kagara could hear everything, across heaven and earth. In Journey to the West, Diding could expose the real Monkey King from the six-eared Mach when even gods failed. This little furball, however, looked absolutely nothing like those terrifying legends. He then activated the creature's symbiotic form. Instantly, the tiny beast transformed into a sleek, ear-piercing ring. The moment the relic's power activated, his senses exploded. He could hear his surroundings with terrifying clarity. He could even hear footsteps outside. Suddenly, Zhang's intense, muffled groans echoed through the walls, making him suspect she was indulging in secret desires. Feeling like a complete creep for eavesdropping, he tried to tune the sound out. Yet, her cries grew sharper, signaling she was in genuine, agonizing distress. He dashed to her door, pounding on the heavy metal and demanding to know her status. Meeting dead silence, sheer panic gripped his heart. Determined to save her, he took a firm stance, backed up, and charged like a rampaging bull. But the reinforced security door of Angjiang's room barely budged. It was built like an absolute tank. Inside, a collapsed Zhang wondered how he had even heard her cries. She absolutely refused to let him see her in this miserable state. Before he could completely shatter the entrance, she screamed for him to stop. The pounding ceased, but our reckless hero made a wild choice. He vaulted straight through her window, leaving her utterly stunned. Landing flawlessly, he immediately checked on her. Flushing with deep embarrassment, Zhang demanded to know why he used the window. The clueless warrior simply replied, he feared for her life when she stayed silent. He quickly offered to summon a medical expert for her injuries. Terrified of a scene, she frantically assured him this was a normal occurrence and the pain would fade. That was when this dense fool bluntly asked if it was her period. Her eyes shot absolute daggers, treating him like the biggest idiot alive. Throwing a mug, she angrily confirmed the truth before dragging him out by force and slamming the door. The warrior had completely misread the battlefield. Meanwhile, back inside, she slid down the cold door, her face burning crimson with unbearable shame and overwhelming embarrassment. After that disastrous retreat, he returned to his own quarters. He began brewing a meal of red dates to restore his depleted vitality. Suddenly, his phone vibrated loudly. It was Schwan calling from the other end. The campus playboy announced that the new semester had begun, and factions were actively hunting for fresh recruits. He suggested scouting the academy grounds to build their network. However, the lone wolf firmly declared he had zero interest in joining any club. Schwan countered, revealing his grand ambition to establish his own exclusive faction. He even swore to boost his friend's combat ranking if he joined, but as fate would have it, our hero leveled up effortlessly just by gaming. He rejected the offer cold, repeating his total lack of interest. Refusing to back down, Xuan warned him that academy missions strictly required party formations to survive. He brought up their grim past, how everyone abandoned them during the brutal combat trials, asking if he wanted to repeat that crushing humiliation. The playboy struck a nerve. Joe finally yielded, sternly reminding his ambitious comrade that 2 members were not enough to forge a club. Shen brushed it off. The scene then shifted to the academy's massive central square. Countless students gathered, and the sheer scale of the bustling crowd overwhelmed our hero. Amidst that vast sea of people, Xuan stood on the grand stairway waving him down, accompanied by a mysterious lady. Upon meeting, the playboy notes the bag. Joe explains he brought red dates and wolfberry tea, too, to replenish his blood. The lady interrupts, suggesting that, since he is here, he should join Wei Young's club. She notes their many beautiful girls would gladly welcome him. Wei Young is Xuan's sister. Because of this, Xuan protests. He insists Joe will join his club instead, asking his sister if she is using beauties as bait. He makes it absolutely clear they will not fall for it. Yet despite his bold words, the playboy is practically drooling. He is clearly tempted. Joe admits he cannot join Wei Young's club. It is not a lack of interest, but rather because he already promised to join Xuan's faction. Wei Young yields, stating she looks forward to cooperating with Xuan's club if needed. The perverted brother simply gives her a thumbs up, while our hero remains silent. Once the ladies leave, Xuan jokes about how Joe let those beauties slip away. Joe demands he get serious, asking if Xuan is truly committed to forging a new club. He warns they must recruit members quickly before the freshmen join other factions. The playboy points out their hands are tied. Freshmen must wait 1 month before applying to establish a club. They also need 5 members. Right now, they do not qualify at all. Annoyed, Joe demands to know why they are even here. Xuan proudly declares that they came simply to scout the girls. This only irritates Joe further. He sacrificed joining a female-led club just to help Xuan build his own. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to our hero. Hearing this, Joe turns. 2 former friends stand before him. He never expected to meet them here. It is fascinating that fate brought them all to Sunset College. Xuan nearly leaps out of his skin upon seeing a beauty in shorts. He demands to know who she is. Shu introduces her as Fun Rookie. He notes they went to the same high school. The playboy whispers to Joe, asking how he missed the chance to meet her back then. Yet, even if he missed out before, Xuan is thrilled to meet Rookie now. Without hesitation, he invites her to join his club, asking if she is interested. To the playboy's shock, Rookie instantly agrees. The idiot remembers to mention they can only apply to start the club in 1 month. She will have to wait patiently for things to happen. She agrees to wait, then walks straight toward Joe. Bowing deeply, she apologizes for abandoning him during the college entrance exam. Her actions could have caused him to miss his true destiny. Xuan watches closely, wondering if she joined Sunset College for Joe. On the other hand, Joe forgives her, knowing it was not entirely her fault. The blonde guy awkwardly adds that they had no choice back then, promising it will never happen again. The playboy tells them to skip the Order 4D formalities. They are comrades now. As it is getting late, he suggests they rest and prepare to gear up for tomorrow's combat test. Chu is stunned. He asks if they truly must dive into a combat test on their very first day. He wonders if they are heading to Buddha City. Xuan clears it up, stating Buddha City is a newly discovered zone full of lethal dangers. Naturally, the college will not let freshmen face those risks. Rusi then explains that based on past years, college selects one of the 4 stable dimensional realms. To pass, one must kill a dimensional creature. The more you slay, the higher your score. Joe is intrigued, asking how she knows so much. She casually points out that this intel is on the college's dimensional forum. Soon after they part ways, our hero takes a quiet stroll. He notes the dimensional forum was created by the Federation to share critical intel about dimensional realms. Users do not need real identities to register. Both the military and the public can post freely. He ignored it back at Gua High, since they rarely faced complex dimensional zones. He never expected that everyone at Sunset College would rely on this forum. Now, he realizes he must master its rules and start using it himself. While absorbed in his phone, a voice calls out, asking if he is a special admitted student in his building. Joe quickly scans the area for the source, only to realize that the short girl stands right before him. He completely failed to notice her presence due to his towering, giraffe-like neck. After looking down, he introduces himself as Joe Wen. He mentions he resides on the second floor. The girl, brimming with bright energy, introduces herself as Wang L. As a fellow special admitted student, he can just call her L. She notes she lives on the first floor, making them neighbors. However, the moment he witnesses her overwhelming energy, he suddenly vanishes into thin air. Only the sound of a closing door remains. It seems she has stumbled upon a truly eccentric neighbor. Joe Wen packs away his gear, boots up his computer, and dives straight into the forums. He discovers this forum is a massive intelligence network open to everyone. The Academy and individuals from every background regularly share critical dimensional data here. He is utterly astounded that such a colossal network allows complete anonymity. The Federation shows zero fear of outlaws or enemies stealing their secrets. Furthermore, a highly rewarding bounty system exists. Users can trade various resources using dimensional points earned by publishing forum posts. He marvels at the sheer ease of gathering these points, simply by sharing knowledge. The primary method to farm dimensional points is through clicks on standard posts, but this yields a pitiful amount, even with thousands of readers. To truly amass a fortune, one must upload paid content. The scope of these premium posts is limitless, allowing authors to dictate their own prices. Yet, due to the complete anonymity of the dimensional network, users fear deception. Therefore, they exclusively purchase premium guides from highly renowned veterans. Additionally, the Federation and the Academy release official premium strategies, which only cost a minimal few points. At first, Joe Wen intensely ponders his strategy, but it does not take long to formulate a master plan. So, he dives straight in and crafts his debut post. Meanwhile, a teacher lounges on her bed, sipping tea while casually scrolling through the forum. She notices countless freshmen desperately trying to show off. As she sifts through the usual garbage, her eyes lock onto something deeply intriguing. She quickly realizes this is an absolute secret strategy for the small Buddhist temple, priced at 20,000 dimensional points. Her jaw drops in pure disbelief at this sheer impossibility. How could anyone possess knowledge of the small Buddhist temple? The surrounding territory is strictly classified as a forbidden zone. All relevant intel has been heavily censored. Even veteran instructors remain ignorant of the temple's true name. She suspects the post might be a complete fraud, given the freshly created account. Yet, if this information holds true, it could completely revolutionize how WAFO, the military, executes their dimensional expeditions. Driven by sheer curiosity, the teacher spends 20,000 points, and the classified knowledge materializes before her. She discovers that channeling ki through the meditation of the Buddha, Heart Lotus dimensional crystal, can repel the temple's bizarre organ-twisting aura. The higher the crystal's rank, the longer its protection endures. The teacher finds this incredibly bizarre. No sensible warrior is foolish enough to train such a basic ki fighting art. Even if this technique were handed out for free, absolutely no one would willingly master it. She wonders if she has been completely scammed. Meanwhile, Joe Wen relentlessly grinds away within the game, clashing against the skeleton knight in endless repetition. After slaughtering the undead warrior countless times, he finally secures a symbiotic egg as a rare drop. He immediately feeds it to his tiny companion, urging it to grow stronger and not just act like a glutton. Exhausted from mindlessly farming the skeleton knight, he decides it is finally time to venture deeper into the unknown map. Soaring across the desolate wasteland, he is utterly bewildered. Not a single skeleton soldier remains in sight, even though he has crossed deep into forbidden territory. Suddenly, an ancient anomaly catches his eye, a colossal tower rising from a ruined imperial city, legendary as the Yanbo Tower. This impossible sight leaves him stunned. Why would the Yanbo Tower manifest here? For vital context, Yanbo was the divine heir of Dao, one of the 5 prehistoric emperors who embodied the supreme fire god. The tower, revered as the fire god's stargazing sanctuary, is fated to exist in the southwest, far beyond the ancient Gua city. According to historical records, it absolutely should not exist within this game's ancient city. He is completely baffled as to why this iconic monument stands before him. Suddenly, a terrifying entity launches from the tower's peak, locking onto his presence with lethal speed. The creature resembles a blazing demonic bird. It dives straight toward him with the velocity of a bullet. He instantly shifts his stance, unleashing his devastating ash palm ability. But the eagle-like inferno beast pierces through his strike like a phantom. This terrifying clash leaves Joe Wen utterly paralyzed in shock. His powerful attack hit nothing but empty air, while the beast zipped right past him. In the very next heartbeat, the demonic bird's hellfire roasts his avatar alive. In reality, he chugs down an energy shake, slams the empty glass, and dives straight back into the game. Burning with absolute determination to slaughter this new monster, he takes flight once again. Unleashing in his winged mosquito symbiotic form, he dominates low skies. But despite extreme agility, he cannot soar above Yanbo Tower to uncover the truth. Making matters worse is the relentless approach of a terrifying beast chasing him from the shadows. He must completely shake off this pursuit. Suddenly, he remembers exactly when the blazing firebird turned its wrath toward him. After his winged mosquito evaded, the flaming beast seemingly prioritized targeting anyone standing closest to Yanbo Tower. Grasping this pattern, he quickly formulates a daring strategy, offering himself as bait to Yanbo Tower. Obliterate this blazing creature. Upon reaching a calculated height, he decisively cancels his symbiotic state and plunges downward, without his wings. Seizing the opening, the inferno bird lunges at him. Instantly, his loyal winged mosquito dives down and crushes the flame beast with one decisive blow. Miraculously, the mosquito's delicate sting proves fatal against the blazing avian, while his ash palm did 0 damage earlier. Suspiciously, he wonders why the system has not yet announced the beast's defeat. Regardless, he instantly sprints up the steps to uncover the truth himself. Suddenly, he spots 2 more blazing beasts, darting his way. He orders his silver-winged mosquito to draw their focus. The familiar immediately charges at the fiery avian threats, using supreme agility to capture their focus. This clears a path, allowing our hero to ascend with explosive speed. However, his climb will not be as effortless as anticipated. The roaring inferno atop the tower violently erupts. Multiple blazing birds swarm his way. Refusing to retreat, he unleashes maximum power. Leaping high into the sky, he blasts through the flock, utilizing his ash palm for aerial propulsion. Yet, as he nears the peak, a mysterious Chinese character manifests beneath the scorching flames. Before his mind can process it, a massive explosion erupts. The blast destroys everything, ending the game again. The ancient symbol he saw means imperial in English. Yet, its meaning here remains a complete mystery. He strongly believes this realm is based on the real ancient Gua city. Yet, the game officially labels it as the ancient imperial city for some reason. Curiously, the system never issued a kill notice after he slaughtered the firebirds. He harbors a dark suspicion. They were likely summoned by a powerful combat skill. Now, a thrilling curiosity blooms regarding facing the ultimate boss who conjured these burning entities. Undoubtedly, many ancient secrets lay buried within the Fire God Tower, yet he currently lacks the strength to uncover them. Later, while scrolling through the forums, he notices he earned 20,000 dimensional points twice. Making profits online is surprisingly effortless. Yet, his satisfaction shatters upon receiving a direct message. The mysterious sender demands to discuss the small Buddhist temple. Meanwhile, across the screen, the sender anxiously awaits Joe's crucial reply. Moments earlier, she consulted her respected senior, sharing how meditation effectively counters the terrifying suppression of the small Buddhist temple. Her senior agreed, confirming their meditation trials yielded absolute success. Yet, they deeply wonder about this anonymous expert. Who holds such specific insight regarding the short Temple of Buddha? The senior then dropped a heavy hint. A stone tablet guards the temple, bearing a key spell. Apparently, similar monoliths exist across other realms. Legends claim whoever masters this hidden chi spell gains unfathomable power. Yet, reality is far more convoluted. An ominous aura surrounds the profound short sutra upon the tablet guarding the short temple of Buddha. Shivering with dread, the senior even confessed that volunteers tried to memorize the cursed inscription. Tragically, they all died. The junior freezes in shock. Her senior strictly warns that mastering the short sutra on perfect wisdom demands unimaginable talent. He commands her to extract deeper secrets from the mysterious poster. Thus, back in the present, her heart pounds with anticipation. Joe finally replies. Fingers flying, she quickly asks if he actually grasps the legendary short sutra on perfect wisdom. Our hero confirms it. This bold admission completely cements her theory regarding the small Buddhist temple. As Joe awaits her reply, she rapidly questions how he mastered the short sutra on perfect wisdom. Desperate, she eagerly offers a top bounty for the hidden secret. It is highly ironic. Joe lacks any clue about proper sutra cultivation. He recalls nearly dying from a brutal headache while glaring at the ancient tablet, plunging toward unconsciousness. The absolute only thing that eased his soul was the lost immortal sutra he already mastered. Suddenly, it clicks. He finally realizes the true key for the short sutra. Jolting upright, he rejects her offer, stating he cannot assist. He instantly closes the forum tab without another word. The next day dawns, and elite students begin assembling at the college. The morning dawns with Xuan greeting our hero, who looks utterly exhausted and barely awake. Xuan offers a quick pep talk, warning him against gaming all night. And honestly, our boy did spend the entire night grinding his favorite game. He explored deeper into the ant nest, but found absolutely zero new leads. Even though the NET, silver-winged mosquito, could battle and crush those black mosquitoes, his ordinary level skeletons and Joe's own life remained in constant peril. They were too weak against these foes, securing zero worthwhile loot. Once everyone settles into class, a stunning black-haired beauty strides in, instantly making all the hormonal boys drool over her. She cheerfully greets everyone, introducing herself as Wang F, which means king's concubine. As energetic as she acts, her eyes desperately scream for sleep. She actually spent her entire night awaiting a reply from a mysterious man who is secretly our boy. Meanwhile, our resident playboy boldly asks her if he can become the king of her life. The teacher smiles, explaining that if he clears her test and successfully graduates, he just might. After some playful banter, her expression turns serious, informing the class that the entrance exam requires slaying one demonized general in Tiger Cage Pass within 10 days. They can team up with up to 3 other students. She strictly clarifies that the combat must be finished within 1.5 minutes, or face instant expulsion. The whole classroom erupts in panicked screams, with some frantically reminding her that they are merely at the mortal level. Surviving this seems impossible. She calmly reassures them that as long as they fight seriously, 10 days will be more than enough. She then announces everyone is permitted to enter the Tiger Cage Pass over the next 10 days, hoping they all survive this trial. Xuan looks completely bewildered, admitting that hunting demonized generals in Tiger Cage Pass feels like a suicide mission. It seems our clueless hero does not even comprehend what these demonized generals truly are. He asks why they are so difficult to defeat. Xuan gravely explains that Tiger Cage Pass was once an ancient battlefield, so the roaming creatures hold terrifying power. Among legendary beasts, demonized generals rank high above average. Some elite demonized generals have even peaked at the legendary level. Since the majority of freshmen remain stuck at the mortal level, this exam borders on madness. Joe decides their best strategy is to take a photo, the closer look at Tiger Cage Pass to gauge the danger. The scene shifts to the faculty office, where a male teacher questions Wang F. He warns that dropping such a brutal trial on specially admitted students might end in disaster, as they are just ordinary rookies. Wangi nods, revealing she already uploaded vital details regarding the demonized generals onto the Dimensional Forum. If students possess the drive to study the lore, it is actually not impossible to conquer the task. She clarifies that forcing students to drop out is not her true goal. She simply wants to shatter their arrogance and teach them humility. After all, the nightmares they will face in the Contra future will make this test look like child's play. We return to our boys, staring intensely at the gate of Tiger Cage. Pass. Upon entering, they are instantly transported to a barren desert. There, bizarre sand-dweller creatures are, lurking about. These are the fabled, demonized soldiers. Zahn frowns in sheer disappointment, as they were expecting to clash with demonized generals instead. He turns to his comrade, suggesting they push deeper to track down a real demonized general. But our hero flatly rejects the idea, preferring to play it incredibly safe and avoid throwing their lives away. He warns that this territory remains a mystery, and he cannot constantly save this playboy from disaster. Shen scoffs, calling him a coward, while Joe simply turns away, claiming he will scout the perimeter alone. As he wanders off, we discover his true motive, hunting for a hidden dungeon to scan into his phone. He figures if he could download dungeons in underground Buddha City and ancient Guida City, this death zone must harbor 1-2. Suddenly, his gaze locks onto an ancient statue. Squinting to inspect the ruins, he spots a familiar palm-like hood for Romans, emblem he desperately needed. Without a second thought, he whips out his device and scans the mark. A while later, the other students are engaging the demonized soldiers in combat. Zan observes from above, looking fiercely disappointed. Our playboy easily recognizes that these demonized soldiers are absolute trash tier, posing barely a threat to his sheer power. It is genuinely laughable, considering how paranoid Joe acted about these pathetic creatures. Speaking of Joe, our hero suddenly returns, telling his friend it is time to leave. Hearing this, Zan turns around and agrees. But catching a glimpse of his friend's sinister smile, a terrifying chill shoots down his spine as they diva. Exiting the gate, Shan notes his friend's unusual joy. Joe, outwardly, denies it, but secretly thrills at finding a new dungeon. Our tale concludes here. If you reach the very end, thank you for staying to hear my narration. I admit the manhwa's translations and power systems were flawed, yet I enjoyed it regardless. I hope you did too. Leave your thoughts in the comments.